Happy Friday, everybody. I'm glad that you're with us on this Friday, the 15th day of December. Let's see, it's 9 shopping days left until Christmas, and I haven't done a thing.
Oh, boy.
I know. I've got to get busy on that. You know, things have to be mailed, etc. But anyway, and it's exactly 1 month until we vote in Iowa. The Iowa caucuses are on January 15th, 1 month from now. So why don't we start off today with a 2024 update, because I'm going to share, I found out that there's somebody out there who's extremely wise. You'll hear it in just a moment. Let me get through some of this other stuff. And no real numbers to talk about today. I mean, we're still talking about, some of the numbers that came in earlier this week, like the big poll yesterday, which showed that President Biden leads in like 7 of the battleground states and doing very well. The trend, I'll just tell you, continues to be Donald Trump up and Joe Biden down. And it's easy to understand why, because every time you see Joe Biden out on the stage, trying to represent the White House and the American people, it's just like, it's extremely low energy. And at times, you need an interpreter to understand what the man is saying.
Taxpayers already are chipping in, paying a lot of money here at NIH to get these brilliant scientists to go out and find cures, find answers to the drug problem, to drugs, with the use of drugs for health, answers to the drug problem, to drugs, with the use of drugs for health problems.
I don't know what he said there. Do we need like an interpreter? Can you imagine, like they sometimes do at the White House, you have somebody who does interpretation for the deaf, and how would they ever be able to figure out what it was he said? I can't understand it. The numbers, his approval numbers, are just in the toilet. Noted by the folks over at Fox News yesterday.
Pew Research Center found President Biden's approval rating at just 33%. 64% of respondents said they disapprove of the president's job performance. That same poll found that only 36% believe Biden can make good decisions on economic policy. That's a 20-point drop since 2021. I wonder why. And just 32% are confident that Biden will make good decisions on immigration. Another 20-point drop from 2021. And just 24% said that they were confident that Biden can unite our country, a nearly 25-point drop. Maybe that blood red MAGA speech had something to do with that one.
I wonder about that myself. And to pick up a little more information out of that Pew Research poll, even members of his own party, their opinion of Joe Biden's job performance has been sliding all throughout 2023. As Pew noted, of partisans, around 6 in 10 Democrats and Democrat leaners, 61%, say they approve of Biden's job performance, compared with 7% of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents. Biden's job approval among Democrats has declined 12 percentage points since October of 2022. Over this period, Biden's rating among Republicans has remained very low. It's virtually, we picked up on this quite some time ago, and now Democrats are slowly but surely coming to the same conclusion. Biden's job ratings are in the low to mid-30 range across age groups. Disapproval of Biden is modestly higher among adults ages 18 to 49 than of those 50 and older. I mean, this is the demographic that the Democrats count on, the younger Democrats, the younger people who, people when they're younger, they tend to vote more liberally than when they get older and they learn about life and have some real life experiences. Then they tend to become more conservative over time. Majorities of adults with 4-year college education, 62%, some college experience, 68%, or a high school diploma or less, 67%, say they disapprove of Biden's job performance, while adults in postgraduate degree are more evenly divided. 48 approve, 50% disapprove. Anyway, when it comes to the issues, we went through all of that. He's not performing at any demographic. I mean, I look across this particular poll, and there's a lot to pull out of it, a lot of from the internals of this poll, and we'll spend some time looking at it and bring it to you as we have more time to examine it more closely and more thoroughly. From the Daily Fetched, Biden in trouble as Democrats openly oppose his 2024 re-election campaign. Here are some of the Democrats, or not necessarily elected Democrats, but people who are definitely Democrats, who do not support Biden's re-election, according to Breitbart. Charlemagne the God. Well, there's a guy with grandiose feelings about himself, isn't it? Just the name. Charlemagne the God. See, the facts are Biden's not getting any younger. He's not going to get any more popular, and he's not going to get a new running mate. So please, Mr. President, give America the ultimate Christmas gift and step aside. David Axelrod, who speaks, some believe, for Obama. If he continues to run, he will be the nominee of the Democrat Party. What he needs to decide is whether that's wise and whether it's in his best interest or in the country's. Representative Dean Phillips, who's running against him, I believe there are other candidates who have a far better chance and don't have the actuarial risk. That's an interesting way of saying he's really old. The actuarial tables are what people in the insurance company look at when they decide how much your life insurance is going to cost. Don't have the actuarial risk that the president has. Why does everyone have blinders on? Why are we essentially being led to this cliff without knowing what's on the other side? David Ignatius, I think he writes for the Washington Post. I don't think Biden and Vice President Harris should run for re-election. It's painful to say that, given my admiration for much of what they've accomplished. Philip Levine, it's a bit like your grandfather running the company, and you don't know that he's at a point now where his heirs could suffer value if they don't change management at the top. And this is very difficult. How do we get Grandpa to relinquish the CEO role? Steve Shurtleff, in my heart of hearts, no. He said when asked if he wanted Biden to run for re-election. I think a lot of people just don't want to say that. And the story goes on to point out, as I have every day here on this program, the recent polling, Trump is really starting to gain momentum, and Biden is falling like a rock, falling like a stone. Casey Hunt over at CNN looked shocked while reporting that Trump is leading Biden by 10 points in Michigan and 5 points in Georgia. We told you about that earlier this week. These are the two states that Biden won in 2020 but went to Trump in 2016. So the news is not great for President Biden, Hunt said, as she reported on results showing Trump leading Biden 49-44 in Georgia and 50-40 in Michigan. Trump's margin over Biden is significantly boosted in both states by people who say they did not vote in 2020. These less engaged voters favored Trump by 26 points in Georgia and 40 points in Michigan. That's her take on it. I don't agree with the less engaged. I think they're very engaged. They've been paying attention like the rest of us. Meanwhile, Republican presidential candidate Ron DeSantis said Republicans need to be ready for President Joe Biden to drop out of the 2024 campaign. If only there'd been somebody out there. If we only had someone with access to the public, with a platform to speak, who would say, get ready for the switcheroo. Oh, there was somebody. That was me. Well, DeSantis is right on this one.
So listen, and this is part of the reason why I thought it was important that we do this Newsom debate. Obviously, there's a lot of Democrats that want to remove him. They understand the liabilities. They understand his bad policies. I think he is not willing to step down at this point. But who knows what's going to happen? And I think this inquiry is justified. I think it should have been done long ago. He's got so many issues that are clouding his presidency. He clearly would not be a great candidate for the Democrats. So Republicans, we need to be ready for whoever they pull out of the hat. Newsom has been waiting in the wings. I mean, quite frankly, after that debate, I'm not sure that that's the candidate that they would want, because he embraced Biden, said Biden did an A+ job as president. Are you kidding me? But then he also is saddled with all of his baggage in California. You have homelessness through the roof, crime pushing people out of communities, and even all the poop on the street in San Francisco. So I don't think that they want to have to litigate on two fronts, to have to defend Biden's failed policies and defend the failed California policies. But I do think we have to be ready that it could be someone else.
He is correct. He is correct. Now, he doesn't really know, like I don't know, how that's going to happen. I just cannot believe that the Democrats will stand by and allow it to happen. I mean, I just can't. Do I want Joe Biden as an opponent? Yes, absolutely. Bring me all the Joe Biden you can bring me. Bring me all the Kamala Harris you can bring me, because I'm telling you, they're both weak. But Democrats are not stupid, and they know this. And I think that, that they are going to come to that conclusion one way or the other. Now, what is the precipitating event that causes the change? I can imagine several. One is he does another face plant. He gets on a world stage. I mean, it's hard to think that we haven't already seen this, because we've seen so much stuff where he doesn't seem to be able to make any sense. He doesn't know where he is. He needs somebody to guide him and point him in every direction. He's taking the short stairs to the aircraft. He's doing all this stuff. And I mean, really, have you seen? It used to be that every once in a while, when he first became president, he would go out there, I don't know, to give him a 5-hour energy drink and a B12 shot, and gave him an extra double dose of Prevagen, and he'd come out, and he would be good for about 20 minutes. I haven't even seen that of late. I've not seen him rise to the occasion in quite a while. He is, if you look at videotape from when he first became president to now, you'd be shocked to see how much he has degraded and deteriorated in the last 2 years. And so, I don't know if it's going to be another event like that, or whether there's just some kind of game that will emerge in the convention, because that's the last place where Democrats could say, oh, you know what? Yeah, we voted for him and through the process, and yes, he got the nomination, but it's not official until it's signed off at the convention, and maybe we need to have a different look at this, and that could happen. The power brokers that control the Democrat Party, the superdelegates and others, I just can't imagine they're going to let him go forward. So unless he can turn it around, which there's been no evidence of that at all, unless he makes a remarkable recovery and starts to make sense all of a sudden, I just don't see it. DeSantis is right. We should all be ready for the switcheroo. In other words, the numbers look good now because we're comparing Trump to Biden. But if it's not Biden, then how do those numbers change? And a last-minute switcheroo by the Democrats could make things interesting. So watch this space. DeSantis, I don't think he's going to be the nominee, but I do think he's right on this issue, that the Democrats are going to look for some opportunity to ditch Biden. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Got some crime in Tennessee and following up with the defamation trial against Rudy Giuliani. That and more. 3:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, there's Mac Morey in the newsroom and Chris Webber in the control room. And guys, I was listening, Mac. I was listening to the conversation you guys were having about your favorite Christmas movies. And,
Christmas movies.
Yeah, so I didn't hear what yours were.
My first pick was It's a Wonderful Life. And
That's a classic. I mean, I can't watch that movie without getting a little tear in the corner of my eye.
It's exactly what Murphy and I were saying. It's the same thing. Yeah, I mean, it just shows the true meaning of Christmas and what it's all about. I got Elf, which I know you mentioned.
Yeah, I mentioned one other thing about that movie.
Yes.
It was Frank Capra, great director. And, and Jimmy Stewart, of course, a great portrayal there. But I worked with a nephew of Frank Capra. And
really? Whoa.
And I worked with him, and he's a good guy. And I was talking to him one day about a bunch of other stuff, and it was some story that I was going out to cover, and I asked him a question. He said, "Don't ask me about business stuff. It was a business story. Don't ask me about business stuff. I mean, I'm a Capra. We're the people who let our rights to It's a Wonderful Life lapse, because the family carries on the." All of the rights to that movie, and apparently they didn't renew the rights, and there for a while it was in the public domain.
Yeah, it was.
And that's why you can find all these different versions very cheap out there on the DVD, because for a while anybody in the world could print a copy of that movie and sell it because it was public domain.
Wow, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, they did finally wrestle back the rights, and that came to a close. But that's why there's some editions out there where somebody decided to colorize it. I don't know what they were thinking about that.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
No.
It needs to be in black and white.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so you said you like Elf. I love Elf.
Elf, yeah, I got that in the second round. I mean, it never gets old. So funny.
And Chris, what about you? I mean, do you ever watch Christmas movies?
Yeah, I do. I've got, mine are kind of the ones that everyone would pick. Christmas Vacation is right up there for me.
That's very funny.
I love Chevy Chase. I love the vacation movies, and that one's great. Home Alone is fantastic. I think, Mac, you drafted that one.
That one, yeah.
That's
one of
yours.
Great one.
There's a lot of movies that I like a lot, but it's hard for me to say, this is definitely my favorite one.
Yeah,
those are two that come to mind.
I like It's a Wonderful Life.
That one's hard to watch to me, though. It's a very long movie, and it's very slow paced.
Yeah, it is long.
So
and movies in that time were more slow paced.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at old movies compared to today, the pace of modern movies has really quickened, and that's part of because the attention span of Americans has quickened. We just can't sit still as long as we once did in the old days. And the other thing, I think other movie I like is White Christmas, Bing Crosby.
Yes.
And I like that one. But I don't ever get really to watch the movies that I like because the TV is blocked by the Hallmark Channel, which is on 24/7 right now. This morning I got up and Cabana Wife is home today, and I got up a little late. I slept in a bit and got up and wanted to watch a little news. And about 30 minutes of news, she said, I can't take the news anymore, and she flips it over to the Hallmark Channel. And I've decided what it is about the Hallmark Channel that drives me crazy. I know what it is. I mean, other than that, every plot is predictable, and every movie looks exactly like the other one.
Yep.
And you got beautiful people shot with an amazing lighting, and all the backdrops are always out of focus, and everything is just perfect. I mean, from a movie making standpoint, they're beautifully done. There's a standard, and they all adhere to the standard. But it's the thing that drives me crazy is the constant insipid music that never stops. It's like they just turn on a CD and lay it underneath the entire movie.
Yeah.
And there's really, music should be used in a movie to accentuate a certain moment or to maybe give a little foreshadow that something is about to happen. Music can be very effective when used in a movie, but if it's just constantly going all the time, it has no meaning, and it drives me bonkers.
Well, see, it does have meaning. That's where you're wrong, Brian. The meaning of the music throughout those movies is to cover up the fact that the dialogue is crap. So they're thinking, you might just pay attention to the music instead of what they're saying.
Well, I guess that's probably it, again, this morning it was on, and I looked at it and I said, I know exactly how this is going to end. I sort of sometimes when I'm maybe I've had a nice drink or two and we're watching, I've had a little eggnog with some stuff. And I start saying, toward the end of the movie, I say, oh, those guys, they're never going to straighten this out. The movie's almost over, and they haven't found each other. There's a complete misunderstanding of the situation.
What are they going to do?
How is this ever going to be resolved in the next minute and a half before the movie ends? Because I know the movie's about to end because I got to watch. And, I know, and then miraculously it happens. Oh, and then there's always that moment where they almost kiss but don't kiss.
Need that.
You say that girl needs to be kissed. Kiss that girl, and then something happens. There'll be an interruption. Always an interruption.
Yep.
And then, eventually they do kiss at the end. And that's always predictable.
Never saw it coming.
That's right. Well, they very seldom, do one of those movies that departs from the actual format. There's a format. They're very formatic.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm about over the Hallmark Channel for this season.
10 more days of it, buddy.
I know.
Buckle up.
Well, it started though, but it started back there, before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
whoa.
I know. I mean,
Okay, come on.
Now, I've already started to see this season's movies 2 or 3 times have come through. I said, why are we still watching it? We know exactly how it's going to end. I just think it's background noise,
Yep.
Pleasant background noise.
She enjoys the music. That's what it is.
That's it. Well, I haven't thought about that. 31 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock.
.331, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 60 degrees and sunny in Nashville. Got a weekend weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes, as well as a traffic report. A dramatic increase in the number of homeless people in the United States. Dave Facker.
On a single night in 2023, roughly 653,000 people, or about 1 out of every 500 people in the U.S., were experiencing homelessness, 12% more than last year. It's the largest single one-year jump since 2007, when the Department of Housing and Urban Development started keeping track. Homelessness among persons and families with children up 16%. While a shortage of affordable housing and higher rents have exacerbated the crisis, so too, say some researchers, has a surge of migrants entering the U.S.
And data from 2022 shows that in Nashville, the number of chronically homeless people in the metro area is around 26% of the total, which is higher than the national average of 19%. Crime in Tennessee News 2 says that a 36-year-old Stacey Stennis was charged after allegedly shooting a victim that ended in her being injured critically. The woman was shot on December 3rd at a gas station off of Whites Creek Pike. Stennis, a convicted felon, is prohibited from possessing a firearm. Authorities said she was booked in Metro Jail yesterday and charged with multiple charges, including attempted criminal homicide. Her bond set at $157,000. And the defamation trial against Rudy Giuliani has gone into jury deliberations. The one-time American hero could now go bankrupt over his claims that 2 Georgia election workers meddled in the 2020 election, which former President Donald Trump lost. Terry Moran tells us why Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss are asking for $40 million in damages.
Ruby Freeman was forced to move out of her home because there were people showing up at the door threatening to make citizens arrest. Shay Moss left her career, which was in the county clerk's office, and once she tried to get a new career, the person who was interviewing her pushed a cell phone with her picture on it and fraud written across. And he says, "This you?" And she had to leave. So, he did a lot of damage to him, and that's what this trial is about.
And that is the latest news, weather, and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, listen, let's talk about the folks over at United Structural Systems. If you have a problem at your house with, structural issues or waterproofing issues, you see the cracks in the brick and you see the cracks in the wall and you got doors and windows that stick, well, you need to address it. And a lot of people really put that off. Well, they're afraid of what they're going to find out when they call the experts in. But here's the thing. It could be a big thing that needs to be fixed, or it could be a small problem that will become bigger. If you don't take care of it, you could save money by acting now. Or you may find that it's really just nothing at all. One way or the other, you're not an expert. They are, and they will come and give you their best advice. They really do give you great advice. Over 25,000 satisfied residential customers. And so they'll come to your house, they'll look it over, they'll give you their assessment, and then if you decide to go forward, you're not going to pay a penny until the job is done and you are completely satisfied. No high-pressure sales tactics. That's not what they're about. They're simply about telling you what's going on, giving it to you straight, and then telling you what they can do to make it better. And then many people have found they're very satisfied once the process is done. At USS, they guarantee their best, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com. Here's the number. Call them and get more information, 615-488-7855. It is 3:39 on Super Talk 99.7. There is a little bit of breaking news out of Washington. There's been a defamation case that was leveled against Rudy Giuliani. It came from election workers who said that Giuliani, defamed them and when talking about the election results the last time around. And the jury has found him guilty of that and said he has to pay a $148 million fine. $148 million fine. So that has just happened in Washington, D.C. The thing about defamation law, and it's very complex. If you say, if I go out here and I say Joe Biden's a bonehead, I am absolutely protected because that's my opinion about an official, a public official, an elected official. But if you just start to, saying things in a public forum with cameras around or microphones around, and you start saying things like that election worker and his name is Bob Smith is a bonehead, and I think he did something wrong or illegal. That person, unless it is what you said is absolutely provable and true, if it's just an opinion that turns out to be not true, you can be sued big time for defamation. The difference is, of course, whether or not you're saying it about a public official or whether you're saying about somebody who's just an average Joe on the street who is not an elected official, not a public person. It's very interesting. And so Rudy Giuliani, I don't know how he's going to, if he appeals it, that's fine. But at some point, this could bankrupt Giuliani, I'm sure. I'm not sure Rudy Giuliani is worth $148 million on a good day. So it'll be interesting to see how this all gets played out. But a jury today saying that Rudy Giuliani defamed those election workers and should pay them $148 million. Whew. All right, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the border situation. We're not seeing the daily reportage on the border like we used to see back in the summer. But it is really ugly right now. Encounters at the U.S. southern border once again passed 10,000 in a single day. That was on this Tuesday, according to Customs and Border Protection sources. The record is 12,000 a day. That was last week. And the numbers continue to strain the Border Patrol agents, as you might know. The Tucson and Del Rio sectors reported encounters of 3,000 and 2,700 migrants, respectively, each surpassing their capacities by over 200%. Yeah. Did you hear that Jay Johnson, who used to be the director of Homeland Security, the Secretary of Homeland Security back during the Obama days, he said, when I was the secretary, if we had 1,000 a day, it was a bad day. And I looked at it as a really, really seriously bad problem because it overwhelmed our systems. Well, what's it doing at 12,000 a day? 12,000 in one day, 10,000 just on Tuesday. Agents have been meeting with groups of more than 100 migrants at various locations, indicating an ongoing trend orchestrated by transnational criminal organizations, the cartels. Lawmakers have been briefed on the daily release of 5,000 illegal immigrants into the United States, to be added to the 1,600 migrants who are processed and released through humanitarian parole each day. So that's 6,600 migrants a day being released into the country each day. Migrants arriving at ports of entry have reportedly come from over 150 countries. A notable increase was observed on Tuesday, listen to this, when more than 190 Chinese nationals encountered at the San Diego sector, and over 120 nationals from Guinea encountered in the Tucson sector. I mean, it's one thing to say, I'm from Central America and I want a better place for my family. My family was starving in Central America. I want a chance to work my way out of poverty, and I want to come to America because it's a land of opportunity. I mean, it's still illegal. Still illegal to come across that way without going through the regular procedures. But you can sort of at least have some compassion and understand why they might try. What are the Chinese nationals doing coming in? What are the people from Africa doing coming in? What are the people from all the 150 different countries around the world? They're showing up at the border. You know why? Because they're trying to beat the system. There is a process. You apply, you get your paperwork, you wait for it to be processed. And yes, maybe it's a little too burdensome a process, and maybe we could do some things to slimline it. But at least when they do it through regular order, we know who these people are, and we have a chance to vet them. Melania Trump doesn't get out much. She doesn't make many appearances, but she made an appearance today as someone who came to this country as an immigrant legally. She followed the right process, and today she was at a ceremony where other people who have followed the rules to become American citizens were awarded their citizenship. What a great way. I mean, I love this. This is the way it's supposed to work. And here's Melania Trump making the point that it's not easy, but, you know, welcome to America. Now add to this thing, this great experiment that we have going on here.
Becoming an American citizen comes with responsibility. It means actively participating in the democratic process and guarding our freedom. It also means leading by example and contributing to our society. It is a life-altering experience that takes time, determination, and sometimes even tremendous strength. You are now a part of a nation with a rich history of progress, innovation, and resilience. Be proud of yourself, stand your ground, and embrace the opportunities that lie ahead. You are American. Be a beacon of inspiration for your children and those who follow in your footsteps. May your journey continue to be filled with endless possibilities, and may your contributions enrich the fabrics of this great nation. Congratulations again.
Yeah, congratulations. And they did it the right way. And what really hacks me off about this is those folks did it the proper way. They did it by the book. And they waited their turn. They presented the proper paperwork. They did it the way it's supposed to be done. And everybody that's coming across the border right now from China to other place, they're circumventing that whole thing. They're thumbing their nose at our immigration system. And we don't know who a bunch of them are. Again, I don't have to tell you. I've said it so many times that, you know, I could just push a button. I should just record this little segment and just have a button that I push when it's time to say this. But we don't know where about 2 million of these people came from. They are people who are known gotaways or unknown gotaways. It comes to about 2 million people since Joe Biden took office. Who are they? Where are they? What are they up to? We don't know. And on top of that, we have our FBI director saying we've got real concerns, real serious concerns about a possible strike against the homeland. He says red lights are blinking everywhere. He sees them everywhere. And on top of that, we have this happening this morning, Fox News getting what seems to be an exclusive report about information that the Mexicans have come up with people who were trying to smuggle IEDs across the border.
U.S. officials are warning agents to watch out for IEDs, improvised explosive devices. This now, according to an internal memo obtained by Fox Business, says the Mexican military seized 10 explosives at the border. The memo reads in part, quote, agents should exercise extreme caution and should report any possible armed subjects approaching the border with possible explosive devices.
Well, doesn't that make you sleep better at night? You know, the Mexicans intercepted. How many got through? Because, you know, I'll tell you, you know this. When there are 10,000 people coming across the border every day who want to have some contact with the Border Patrol, there's a hell of a lot of people who are getting across who don't want to have any contact with law enforcement. And now we're hearing talk about improvised explosive devices being found by the Mexicans on their side of the border, and it appears that they were trying to get across the border with these improvised explosive devices. Be afraid, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. Be very afraid. How many got through? You don't know, and I don't know. The government doesn't know. But I think there's a pretty good chance some got through. What else? House Democrats are calling for answers. House Democrats calling for answer for a problem in the Arizona county. This is Ruben Gallego. He says a House Democrat lawmaker is questioning the Department of Homeland Security, according to Fox News, or what he says is unacceptable decision by the federal government to deny an extension for the period in which an Arizona county hit hard by the migrant crisis can use millions in aid. Congressman Gallego has written to the DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas requesting clarification about the use of over $5 million in funds designated for Pima County where the number of migrants has surged from around 7,000 a month to nearly 15,000 a month in 2023. And he says, without this funding, Pima County will be forced to begin spending other monies, leading to a far earlier fiscal cliff than initially projected. They'll be in financial trouble on a local level because the Border Patrol's playing games with their money. Chicago City Council denies voters a voice on a continued sanctuary city status. The voters wanted to take a referendum to the people of Chicago about whether or not Chicago should remain a sanctuary city, and a special city council meeting was called to consider the issue. It lasted less than an hour. The mayor ruled that the referendum that asked that should the city of Chicago limit its designation as a sanctuary city by placing spending limits on its public funding needed a 2/3 vote or 33 aldermen to suspend the rule so it can be considered. It did not pass, and therefore the city, the people who live in that city, are denied the opportunity to take that question to the voters. And still no real solution on the standoff on Capitol Hill. The House Republicans have basically gone home for the weekend and saying, we'll be happy to come back and talk about Ukraine aid when you, Mr. President, come up with some plans to secure the border. That standoff continues. 52 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Stinky, stinky, stinky. That's what it's like in some places where you go to get your car repaired. I mean, was it that way when you went to an auto repair shop? Smelly, greasy old rags laying around? A countertop that you just wouldn't even want to touch without getting all your clothes dirty? Another thing that stinks is repair shops that keep your car forever. They're not honest and they don't call you back when they say they will. If that was your last experience at a vehicle repair shop, why don't you try Eurofix? Eurofix takes the stink out of European auto repair. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. No high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty, a free loaner car with every repair appointment, and you never pay dealer prices. Eurofix, now in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and Mount Juliet, is their newest facility, right across from the Dairy Queen. 844-EUROFIX, that's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
The latest on the defamation trial against Rudy Giuliani, an announcement from Governor Lee, and some new data showing a trend in the number of children impacted by gun violence this year. 3:30, 4 o'clock, Super Talk, then at 9:07 WTN.
Yeah, one of those times. Kathy Lee Gifford is going to join us at the top of the next hour, along with a couple of guys who form a group known as Lewis York, and they're going to be performing over at Belmont. We'll hear from. Been far too long since we've had America's Sweetheart on the program. She's America's Sweetheart. She's the queen of Franklin, and I always enjoy having her on the program. Let's look at the market very quickly. Dow Jones Industrials up 56. S&P down, just less than a point. NASDAQ is up 52. So relatively flat today, but a big week on the major indices. And what was driving all this? John Maxon is standing by over at Beacon Capital Management with more on that. Hello, John.
Hey, Brian. Good afternoon. Yeah, the S&P just capped its longest weekly win streak in 6 years, and the market's all overall the longest streak since 2017. And a lot of this, of course, has to do with the Fed's message when they came out on Wednesday and really gave the markets what they were expecting to hear, that they're done raising rates, and really projected, and most analysts believe, about 3 rate cuts next year. We're already seeing that, not just in the market numbers, but really in the mortgage numbers. Real estate's starting to pick up. 30-year rates are below 7% for the first time in quite a while. And then kind of as a side note, retail numbers were really good. So, again, a strong message from the Fed, and the market's pretty excited about that.
All right. Thank you, John. Learn more about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 56 degrees in Nashville. Traffic, a complete weather forecast coming up in about 5 minutes. A federal jury in Washington, D.C. has awarded a huge sum of money to 2 Georgia election workers who were defamed by former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Giuliani falsely claimed the 2 women were engaged in voter fraud, leading to harassment that upended their lives. A jury of 8 was tasked with reaching a decision on damages. Here's Stephen Portnoy.
It took the jurors about 10 hours over 2 days to do the math, and when their unanimous decision was reached, jaws in the courtroom dropped. The jury awarded the 2 Georgia election workers nearly $150 million in damages. It's more than 3 times what Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss were seeking. It's not clear how the now famously cash-strapped former mayor will pay it.
And right now in Tennessee, Governor Lee has announced pardons to 23 Tennessee prisoners. 22 former Tennessee prisoners were given pardons in an official statement of forgiveness, while one current prisoner who has earned multiple degrees while in prison from Lipscomb University had her parole eligibility expedited. And some new data shows a disturbing trend in the number of children impacted by gun violence this year. Luke Barr.
In 2023, 370 children were involved in unintentional shootings, more than in 2022, according to a gun safety group. Everytown for Gun Safety found that the shootings resulted in 143 deaths and 242 injuries. Point to such incidents such as in Detroit, where earlier this year a 5-year-old shot and killed themselves when a gun was left on a dresser. Luke Barr, ABC News, Washington.
Crime in Tennessee. A Muslim family has been arrested after being accused of assaulting their own son because he wanted to convert to Christianity. Mother Rawah Kawaji, father Nick Kadam, and son John Kadam were arrested after officers executed a welfare check. Police found the boy with bruises and cuts everywhere, looking visibly scared. The boy's manager, where he worked, told officials that he came to her once saying, quote, "My mom put a knife to my throat, and she said if I don't deny Jesus, she will kill me." The boy is now safe and staying with a Christian foster family. And the autopsy report for Friends star Matthew Perry, who was found dead in his pool in Los Angeles in October, has now been released. Alex Stone.
The LA County medical examiner finding Matthew Perry died from high levels of the drug ketamine in his blood. It notes he had been undergoing ketamine infusions to treat depression and anxiety, but the levels in his blood, the report says, could not have been from his last known ketamine infusion for those conditions. Drowning and coronary artery disease were noted as contributing factors. The medical examiner believing he went unconscious and went underwater and drowned.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is 4:07 on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive on Super Talk. We're We are expecting in a few moments that we'll be joined by Kathy Lee Gifford and also a group known as Lewis York. The two members of that group, the founding members of that group, will be with us. We're having a little difficulty connecting with Miss Gifford at the moment. So maybe that'll take care of the next few moments. Let's see what else we can talk about in the meantime. We'll try to just tap dance for a moment while we are waiting on that. I will mention that it is Friday, and so that we normally do at 4:35 and 5:35 the Phone Your Farm Friday, which is a big thing that we do every Friday, and it's a fan favorite. So let me just say this. Maybe this week you've been listening to this program and there's something that you heard that just you have a strong opinion about it. Maybe there's something that you want to get off your chest. Maybe, this is the thing about Phone Your Farm Friday. Normally when we do talk segments, we end up doing things like, dedicated topics. And we'll say, here's the topic, and I want to know your opinion about this. But on Phone Your Farm Friday, it's completely different. You can talk about anything that's on your mind. And so remember, if you want to be a part of that, get your thoughts together. We'll do that at 4:35 and again at 5:35 here on Super Talk. And the number is, of course, 615-773 9986. It's 615-773-9986. So get ready for that, and hopefully we'll get this resolved. Let's see. I'm going to have to turn over here to the wall of news. What do I want to talk about? Here we go. We've talked a lot on this program while we're waiting on Chris to get everything. Oh, goodness. If you're satisfied. There we go. Let's try that. We're still trying to get a hold of Kathy Lee. We'll get this already taken care of in just a moment. We talked earlier today, and I don't know what's going on. White House takes action to force government workers to travel via electric vehicle or rail. These operational changes will accelerate the clean transportation transformation that's going on. Let's see. The White House issued new guidelines today requiring federal government employees to prioritize using electric vehicles. Again, this is all part of the EV thing. We told you yesterday how the Biden administration is out there talking about how, hey, everybody's moving to EVs, but it's simply not true. So they're trying to force the government to buy a bunch of electric vehicles. They're trying to get the government to do this, that, and the other. And, listen, that's all good and fine, except that many people have found that electric vehicles just don't perform the way they're supposed to perform. So they are not selling in a big way. Ford just announced that it is reducing by 50% the number of F-150 Lightnings, their electric truck, that they were planning to make in the next year. And the reason is not enough people are buying them. But the administration continues to push forward with this idea that we all should be driving electric vehicles. And so the White House issues guidance requiring federal government employees to use electric vehicles, electric trains, and public transportation options when conducting official business. The actions, which the White House said fulfilled President Biden's promise to lead by example on tackling climate change, seek to take advantage of the federal government's annual business travel purchasing power. You know what that is? Comes to about $2.8 billion in travel money each year. And Stannis is the nation's largest employer. Overall, government employees on official business took more than 2.8 million flights, made 2.3 million vehicle rentals, and took over 33,000 rail trips last year. So they're trying to force those all to be done somewhere, with electric vehicles or electric trains or something like that, and they're making a push to make that happen. The operational changes will accelerate the clean transportation transformation and increasing good-paying union jobs and create healthier communities, the White House said in a statement. And if there's just one problem. They can push and they can push and they can push, but at the end of the day, there doesn't seem to be any interest by the general public. I mean, those who wanted electric cars have bought electric cars. They have decided to move forward and buy gasoline cars instead of electric cars because they found that electric cars just don't meet their needs. Dealerships right now will tell you they've got electric cars on the lot and they can't get rid of them. So on one hand, you have an administration pushing a policy designed to do away with the internal combustion engine And out here in America, Americans are saying to a large degree, we don't want the electric cars. We're not ready for electric cars. We don't have the wherewithal to afford electric cars or the grid to support them. And so they continue to buy gasoline cars. I don't think it's going to change. Once again, whatever happened to the concept? It's a novel idea, a novel concept. Let's just allow the free market system to have its way. Let people choose the vehicles they want to drive without government interference. But that's not the way it works in the Biden White House. That's not part of the Green New Deal. So they continue to force the electric vehicles and electrification policies against us, even though we don't want it. Well, we are apparently having some difficulty trying to reach Miss Gifford, so I'm going to do something a little unusual. I'm going to take an early break here and see if we can reset and find out what's going on. And if not, we'll move on. It is now 13 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You know, gold is something that's been used as money for millennia. It is a tried and true store of value, and it's consistent across generations. Generational wealth has three components: land, art, and precious metals. Land and art can be hard to evaluate, but precious metals like gold, platinum, and silver are real solutions. You see, inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money, and gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. You can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. Maybe you have gold that was given to you, or you are not sure what it's worth. Or maybe you're just curious about precious metals and you want to learn more. No better place to go than Nashville Gold and Coin. They are always available to discuss your options, educate you on the precious metals market. So do what I did. Go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin. Learn more and set up your one-on-one appointment at NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
The IDF accidentally murdering Israeli hostages and the impact of the violence there in Gaza around the world, including right here in the States. Plus, the money news, those stories 30 minutes after the hour at 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, we've been trying to reach Kathy Lee Gifford, but apparently there is an issue with the phone service in Franklin right now. We don't know what that's all about. I can text her, and we've given her the number to call, but she can't to make her phone work. Either it's operator error or we got a problem out there. I don't know which it is. But that's all right. We'll go ahead and we'll talk to Claude Kelly and Chuck Harmony, who make up the musical group Louis York, who are going to be performing at Belmont, a little thing they call Hope for the Holidays. Guys, thanks for joining us here on the line. Maybe in the next few moments, Kathy Lee will, figure out how to operate her phone, and we'll get her on the line. So, but tell me, but tell me about your program. And first of all, let me say this is at the Fisher Center. And anybody who's not been to the Fisher Center is in for a real treat, because that is just an amazing facility.
It really is. It's a dream facility. We visited. We saw a couple of concerts there last year, and we were just enamored by the building and the sound. And so we're so excited to perform there tomorrow night.
All right, so it's called Hope for the Holidays, an evening with Louis York and friends. Tell us about Louis York, and then tell us about the friends.
Well, Louis York is myself, Claude Kelly, and Chuck Harmony. Chuck is originally from East St. Louis. I'm from New York. That's how he got the name Louis York. But we have been living in Nashville for about 7 years now. Yes. And what we recognized was that the holidays are a wonderful time, but they're also not easy for everyone. You know, a lot of people are going through things, loss. It's a hard time for people mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially. So we wanted to create a program that wasn't just about the tinsel and the gifts and the fun, but also spoke to the heart of people, bring some comfort and, of course, bring some hope at a time that's not easy. We can't forget those who are going through things at these times. So the songs, the friends, we have, of course, Kathy Lee being one of them, Scott Hamilton, Jay Allen, Chip Eston, Megan Lindsay, and the list goes on, are all true friends that also feel the same way and gave their time, made them sacrifice their holiday early to come and be a part of this, to bring some hope to people. It's for a good cause and benefiting from good causes, but it's going to be a good night of inspiration and love. Well, that's great. I mean, and an uplifting and positive thing. And there are people who, well, I like to think of Christmas as a happy time, but for some people it is a difficult time. And so for those who need a little uplifting of their spirits during the holidays, what a wonderful thing. Now, I had the opportunity. I was there the night over at Kathy Lee's place where you guys performed some of the cuts from your album, and and Kathy Lee made me dance. I'll never forget that. And the Shindellas were there. Are the Shindellas going to be at your performance? They're amazing too.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be there in full glitter.
In full glitter and glam. They've had an excellent year. They've been putting out new music, so they have a lot to celebrate and a lot to give back for. So the whole family will be there, and if you're there, we might make you dance again. So. No, it was if you remember, it was a very awkward moment. Yeah, but you guys have become friends with Kathy Lee, I know. How did that all come about?
Well, it started off as a songwriting relationship. Yeah. People don't know that Kathy Lee is one of the best songwriters that we've worked with, and so we started writing songs for a musical that she was working on called The Way. And we just, over the course of time, just spending time writing songs, we just became good friends. And now she's like our little sister. She's our little sister, yeah.
Yeah. And all of these friends are going to be there. How long is the show? And what can people expect? Sort of describe the program as best you can.
The show is about 2.5 hours. There's an intermission, so there's a time for you to get up and stretch and take a little potty break, but come back for some more inspiration. But it's a combination of spiritual songs, and there's a few traditional Christmas songs, some songs that are not necessarily for Christmas, but are about hope and inspiration and speak to the heart of the matter, like I said. But honestly, what's going to really touch people is you're going to feel the love in the room, because the entire group of people have become a family. And we have grown through the process of literally rehearsing and working this out. And so we hope that you feel our connection, and that kind of stretches out into the audience. The music is we've been in rehearsals all week, and let me tell you, the music is mind-blowingly good. Everyone, all the singers are brilliant, and I hope I'm not giving too much away, but the movie that Chuck mentioned that we did with Kathy is a big centerpiece of the show. It's a song we co-wrote with her called What Grace for the Way. And we've been looking for a beautiful place and a beautiful opportunity to perform this song with a choir and the whole thing, strings and the whole 9 yards.
Oh, man.
What better place in the Fisher Center, right? So if you come, you're in for a treat. Kathy will be there. She'll be part of it, of course.
If she can work her phone.
If she can fix her phone,
Yeah.
she'll be there. But it really is. There's something for everyone. It's all ages. You'll get your traditional Christmas songs, but you also get some songs you weren't expecting that you needed.
And this reminds me that Nashville is not just a place where we do country music. I mean, we do country music, we do it well, but Nashville is a place for all different kinds of genres of music. I mean, based on what I've heard of your organization, I wouldn't call you country performers. I would call you more toward rhythm and blues. Would you say?
Yeah, rhythm and blues and inspirational.
Yep.
We work with everyone. We've written for the gamut of artists, and so we kind of wear many hats. But when we have to define it, we call it New American Soul.
Mm-hmm.
New American Soul. I like that. Yeah.
New American. It's all American. 'Cause that's where we come from. But it's a little of all the things we are inspired by: gospel and country and rock and pop, of course. But it's all that put together into a new sound.
Well, listen, for folks who are listening to this and say, hey, that sounds like just exactly what I need to do on a Saturday night at 7 p.m., how would they go about getting tickets?
The website is that's the number 4, hopeforholidaysnash.com. hopeforholidaysnash.com. There are still tickets available. It won't be the same without you there. We want to see you there. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, and again, you have no idea what you're in for if you've not been to the brand new Fisher Center over at Belmont. It is just the most remarkable facility. I mean, Nashville has some great places. We got the Ryman, we got other places in town, but this is something special. This is, I like to compare it to the great concert halls of Europe. I mean, it's really of that standard.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And it's the best kept secret. So hopefully those who coming for the first time will really be blown away by the theater itself, but also the sound in there. It's really spectacular. You're right.
All right, and then at the end of the show, I want you to do me one little favor.
Sure.
I want you to pass the plate to buy Kathy Lee a better phone. Okay.
Well, that's what the concert's really about. It's to raise money for Kathy's cell phone.
No, that's the real purpose. Kathy Lee needs a new phone. Let's pass the hat. All right. Listen, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I greatly appreciate it. Good luck again. I found a way to get there. If you give the website one more time.
hopeforholidaysnash.com.
That's the number 4.
The number 4, hopeforholidaysnash.com.
Or I found out the information by going to thefishercenter.com. I think there's a link there as well that'll get you headed in the right direction. All right, listen, thank you so much, Claude Kelly and Chuck Harmony with the group Louis York, and we'll try to connect another time with Kathy Lee. Did she ever get through?
I never got a call, no.
Yeah, I don't know. We could text her, but she couldn't call out.
Interesting. Yeah, very strange.
How about that? Now, so anyway, it'll be a good time to be had by all. I mean, it's really, I'll tell you, Chris, it's a great time of year for this kind of stuff. If you love Christmas music, I mean, I think Amy and Vince Gill are doing big run at the Ryman, and so that's always a great show. There are shows out at Opryland which are always good holiday season things, and we really should take advantage of it. But I mean, I got to tell you, I don't want to keep harping on this, but I went to the Fisher Center for the very first time for a tribute to Vince Gill, and I mean, it was quite the show. I mean, everybody in the world showed up there. It was an all-star cast because everybody loves Vince Gill. But I mean, I could not get over this facility. I mean, you look up and it's like a big gilded dome that you're looking up to. Wow. I mean, it's spectacular. I mean, it's not like anything I've ever been in before. And the only thing I can compare it to is the great concert halls that you see, in Europe. because I mean, really, it really is of that caliber, and the sound in that place, and the lighting and everything is just exquisite. So they really know how to put on a good show out there. And I've heard Louis York, and I'm telling you, these guys have got skills, real skills. And some of it's a great way to show off some of the tremendous talent that we have here in this area. And I don't think you'll be disappointed by going out to do holidays, hope for the holidays, an evening with Louis York and friends, and then they'll pass the plate for Kathy Lee to get a new phone. I mean, these iPhones are expensive. We got to get her something that works. It is 30 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.4:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 58 degrees on Music Row. Latest forecast and a traffic report just ahead, 5 minutes away. The IDF confirming they killed 3 Israeli hostages by mistake, saying it happened during combat in Gaza. Here's Ines de la Catera.
You can bet that this is going to renew questions as to the IDF's strategy here to go after these hostages by force. The IDF, the Israelis, have said that there is no other way to rescue the hostages at this point because diplomacy has really hit an impasse. But we are learning every day of additional hostages who've been killed. So lots of questions as to whether that new approach is working. But for now, the Israelis say there's no negotiating with Hamas.
And here in the States, U.S. officials remain on high alert after police overseas arrested 11 suspected Hamas supporters for allegedly planning attacks in Europe. In Denmark, 3 suspected supporters of Hamas taken into custody as a part of a joint investigation with Israeli intelligence accused of plotting revenge attacks because of the war in Israel and Gaza. Now over to some money news. Daria Albinger.
The major indexes ended an up and down day mixed as Wall Street closes out its longest weekly winning streak in 6 years. The Dow gained 57 points. The Nasdaq added 52. The S&P saw little change. Stocks soared this week after the Federal Reserve once again kept interest rates steady. Chair Jerome Powell said cuts could be coming in 2024. The S&P has jumped roughly 15% since late October on optimism. The company behind Olive Garden, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and other restaurant chains fell 2/3%. Darden Restaurants gave a fiscal year revenue forecast that fell short of analyst forecasts. Costco gained more than 4% in a strong quarterly report. The company says it'll send $6.7 billion in cash to its shareholders through a special $15 dividend. A senior U.S. official tells ABC News that the FDA suspects applesauce pouches tainted with lead were the result of a manufacturer cutting corners to save money.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
King & Associates Insurance in Brentwood has been in business for 25 years as an independent agency, and that's what you need. It's something that give you an advantage so that you get the kind of insurance that you really need. You see, as an independent agency, they don't have to just sell you one product. They can sell you a whole variety of products. They can shop around to find that insurance policy that actually meets your need much better. And then what you get then is insurance that meets your needs, but you get more bang for your buck. That's what you want, right? And another reason why you want to get an independent agency like King & Associates is that they will give you great customer service. When you call their number, 615-329-8121, you won't reach a call center. You don't get a phone tree. You don't get a recording that says, please stand by. Your call is important to us. No, there's an actual human being that will answer the phone. Imagine that. What a concept. And they will get your answers. They will get you pointed in the right direction. They will solve whatever issue you have. Multi-policy discounts, they're the king of that. They do 20, 25, 35% savings are possible. So listen, you need to get your royal review. Call them up, give them some information, let them run some numbers for you. I think you'll be really surprised at the improvement they can give you in the kind of insurance you have and the cost that you're paying. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. tkinginsurance.com. They are a place where you get royal treatment and great rates.
Awaken 180 is my solution for weight loss.
Laughing, learning, friendships. Not the words normally associated with trying to lose weight. But with Awaken 180, you're not trying. Weekly weight loss while gaining the tools to keep it off. Free support for life, friends for life. Learn how over 17,000 clients succeeded with the solution for weight loss.
Awaken 180!
It is 38 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I got to tell you, Chris, I am baffled as to why we couldn't get through to Kathy Lee. We were getting text messages from her through an email account that nobody seems to know anything about.
Weird.
But she tried to call, and I tried to call, and they tried to call, and we
I
couldn't
probably called 50 times. No
Yeah.
joke. Like I called over and over and over. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Weird.
I've never seen this kind of thing prop up before. Apparently, the phones are working out there, but there's just something wonky about her phone. I don't know. Yeah, no. But anyway, we'll connect with her another time. She's always a lot of fun. I enjoy always catching up with her. You know, we used to do lunch on a when I worked the morning show. I would do the morning show, and then she and I would go out to have lunch. And I'll tell you what's fun about it is that you get great stories.
I bet. Yeah.
A lot of people, like to hear, they say, hey, tell me about that thing that happened back then, and they want to hear my story. I tried to tell a story, and then and then when she tells one of her stories, it's like I'm not telling any more stories because her stories are amazing. All these show business stories. And, I remember when this person was in my garden having coffee one day, and I go, it's like this, drops a name, and I go, wow. So
it's just no big deal there. Right?
Yeah, it's, to her, she's had this most amazing life and been so many different places. But we would have lunch, and I would get there about 11:30, and sometimes we go out to lunch. Sometimes she would have, sandwich stuff brought in, and we just sit there at her place and catch up. And I'm not making it up. The lunches, I would look up and it'd be 3:00.
Yeah.
I mean, we just were having such a good time talking and catching up that it was always a surprise. Well, anyway, let's get on with it because you know what time it is. Mm-hmm. It's time for that fan favorite, a thing we call Phone Your Farb Friday. That's right. We want to know what's on your mind. Here's the hotline number, 615-737-9986. That's 615-737-9986. Let's get busy, folks. What's on your mind? Maybe you have a burr under your saddle. Maybe you have what is it, the other thing? Oh, a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you got a bug in a place where really no human being should ever have a bug. That's right. So this is your opportunity to stand up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself to get it off your chest. Maybe you want to take umbrage with something that I said. Maybe you have a question. Maybe something that you heard on this program has really fired you up and you just want to get it all off your chest. This is your opportunity, folks. Don't, what just happened? Again, our phones are acting wonky today. 615-737-9986. Give us a call at that number, and if you called and we didn't get to you, call back. Call back right away, 615-737-9986. I mean, the phones are just not working in our direction today. I don't know what we're going to do. Let's see. Here we go. There's some people calling back in. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Let's go to Malika in Nashville. Malika, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Malika?
Hi, Mr. Wilson. I really love your show.
Well, thank you.
I am totally blind. I moved here in 2013. I love country music. I love that in Nashville everybody helps out everybody. I met Crystal Gale. I met Charlie Pride. I met Brenda Lee, the Oak Ridge Boys, and among others. And I just like that country singers are just like regular people. Sometimes you forget that celebrities are people.
Right.
And I think it's amazing. So I love your show, Mr. Wilson. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And I think you're right. I mean, when you and what I love about Nashville is that you have these amazing experiences. If you love music, and I deeply love music, and it sounds like you do as well. What happens is that you'll just have these encounters. You'll be in a grocery store and you look up and there'll be some famous country person buying their groceries, just like you are. You see, they put on their pants one leg at a time, just like like you and I do. And so it's they are just normal folks. They happen to be our neighbors. What I also love about Nashville is, by and large, there's sort of like you can just nod in acknowledgement and let them know, hey, hey, I know who you are and I like you, and and then they'll sort of nod back, and that's sometimes all you need to do. We don't harass our country stars. We give them a little room to be normal people, and that's one of the very, very cool things about Nashville. Andrew in Mount Juliet, you're up next on the Drive. Andrew, what's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Question about the border. A few months ago, Texas was putting barbed wire into the Rio and trying to halt the migrant inflows. And then they got a stay from the court. But the last I heard, Mayorkas and the administration was still tearing them up and ripping them out. Do you know if that is in case of fact? And if so, how can they defy a judge and an order and just continue to remove obstacles that the states are trying to put in place? Because obviously the government's not doing their fulfilling their responsibility.
Well, as you know, Andrew, I follow this issue very closely because I think it's one of the big issues of our day. And yes, there was a stay put in place to not interfere with those. There were some floating barriers that they put out there, and then they had the barbed wire on the shoreline on the Texas side of the Rio Grande. And the administration went in and started, cutting up the concertina wire, and they were trying to disconnect the floating barriers that were out in the river. And they went to the courts, and the court did initially stay the matter, but then there was a ruling on the matter, and they said that the federal government had the authority to do that. Now, I think it's being appealed, and I don't know what's happening today, but they lost that round in a federal court, is my latest and best memory of where that thing stands. If there's more information and I can find it, I'll get it on the air, I promise you. Let's go to Sandra, same topic. She's out on the road. She wants to talk about the border situation. Hello, Sandra. You're on with Brian.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello?
What's on your mind?
Yes. Oh, let me put mute the. Okay. Yes, my concern about, well, I have a lot of concerns, but the main thing. Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. The main thing was these military-age young men that are coming through the border. Maybe they're getting stopped. Maybe they're not. I just wonder if it's kind of like an offshoot of the Trojan horse.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's interesting. What are they bringing across? I mean, these military-age men, I tell you this, that if I were in charge of a foreign country's intelligence services, and I would look around and I'd say, you know what? There's chaos over there, and we ought to use this as an opportunity to plant people inside the country, spies or people who would perhaps carry out attacks if they didn't have our best interest at heart. And I think that's why there's so many, especially I find interesting that there's a lot of military-aged Chinese men showing up with suitcases and the whole 9 yards on the southern border recently, a bunch of them. And, I listen, if you're an intelligence agency and you're not taking advantage of the chaos on the border, then you're not much of an intelligence agency. We would take advantage of another country, if that were the case, to get our people inside the borders, to slip them in without anybody knowing that they were there. I mean, certainly we would. So, I mean, I would expect that the reverse is also true. I think I'm greatly concerned about that because there's about 2 million people we don't know who they are, where they are, or what they're up to. Let's go to Carl in Nashville. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Carl?
Hey, Brian. Hope you're having a good day. I just wanted to talk to you about our buddy Biden. Now, the doctors said that he had his cognitive skills, he was doing well, everything just fine. So I was thinking about it. Maybe his stumbling and bumbling and falling and all his gaffes are intentional so he can get out of the race, the presidential race at the last minute. Or that's what they're going to do to get rid of him in the long run, because obviously if he is sick, like we all believe, he'll never be elected. So he'll back out at the last minute saying, yeah, okay, guess I've had some problems. I think I'm going to go seek help and I'm going to resign or I'm going to back out. And that's why he's not afraid of Congress with all the Hunter Biden things and all the money that he's stolen and everything he's done illegally. Because at the end, in the long run, he's going to claim basically insanity and walk.
Well, listen,
that's their game.
I don't know. I don't think he's insane. I think he's just cognitively impaired. And you say, well, how can you say that? Well, he's not crazy. He just doesn't have his abilities about him. And, I really worry about that 2:00 in the morning phone call that comes when the staff isn't around to handle things and they say, Mr. President, we need a decision. I mean, does anybody in America have confidence that he's up to making a 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Decision when lives are on the lines, when there aren't people around for him to check in with and to hold his hand and point him in the right directions? I really worry about that. And so, I think it's, I don't know how it's going to end, but I don't think he's going to be the nominee. And As you may have heard earlier, neither does the other people. Ron DeSantis is out there saying we need to be ready for whoever they end up sending us, because it's probably not going to be Biden, and I think they're right. Let's go to Jamal in Ashland City. Jamal, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind?
Well, my pronouncement ain't close enough, but I was just wondering, whatever happened to the 10th Amendment? You know, what powers specifically are not specifically granted to the federal government are reserved to the states and to the people? I mean, how can they overrule the state when they're not doing their job? So it's the state's responsibility then.
Yep. And listen, I think that the 10th Amendment is something that gets overlooked a lot. The 10th Amendment says the federal government has only those powers delegated to it by the Constitution. And if it's not listed there, it belongs to the states or the people. Now, I'm not a constitutional expert. I mean, I read the Constitution and I have my understanding of it, but I wouldn't consider myself to be a real legal expert on that matter. But what I do wonder is about the border. What happens if a government has a power that's given it, and the federal government is supposed to be responsible for the border, but then the federal government doesn't live up to its constitutional requirements? Then what do? What's the state supposed to do? Just stand by and do nothing? And I think you're right. We probably should, and I think this current Supreme Court is in favor of trying to do everything they can to return power to the states, as they did with the Second Amendment. Thank you for the call. We'll do this again at 5:35. Right now, it's 50 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
A verdict coming out of the Rudy Giuliani defamation case. A dog dead in a house fire in Tennessee, and now an arrest has been made because of it. More information now coming out about Friends TV star Matthew Perry's death. Those stories and more coming up at 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, we're still trying to get details about the tornadoes, and coming up here in just a few moments, a story that I think you need to pay close attention to, make you want to go and check and see how things are done at your house. I mean, you had a situation in Clarksville where a tree of a house that was hit by a tornado was perfectly fine, but the entire house was moved off its foundation and destroyed. What happened there? What was the reason for it? It's going to be pretty shocking when you hear the answer to that question and make you perhaps go and take a look at exactly how your house is put together. It's all coming up ahead on the drive right here on Super Talk 99.7. All right, let's talk about the folks over at Legend Steakhouse. They got a big deal coming up in about 3 days on the Monday, December the 18th. So next Monday, customers can come by there at their customer appreciation event, buy $100 worth of gift cards from Legend Steakhouse. You get an extra $25 in gift cards, no extra charge. Listen, maybe you want to go by there tonight and have a steak. That'd be a good idea. Get a good steak and they're very flavorful. They got that great seasoning on them. But you might want to think about lunch. They got a meat and two situation. Fried pork chops, Smoky Mountain meatloaf, fried catfish, slow-cooked pot roast with gravy, 14 vegetables and casseroles to choose from, broccoli casserole, turnip greens, you name it. Home-cooked meals like your mama used to make. In fact, these recipes came from Johnny's mom, and he borrowed the recipe book some 30 years ago and just never took it back. Legend Steakhouse, multiple locations in Middle Tennessee. The whole idea here of their concept is good food at a fair price. What else could you ask for? Go to legendsteakhouse.com to find out their locations or to order online. They've been in business in Middle Tennessee for 34 years. You're going to enjoy, I promise, your next visit to the Legend Steakhouse.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 54 degrees in Music City. We got a weather forecast that'll tell you how this weekend's looking weather-wise, plus a traffic report for your drive home on the way in 5 minutes. A verdict in the Rudy Giuliani defamation case. Michelle Franzen.
A jury awarded two Georgia election workers nearly $150 million in damages in the defamation case against Rudy Giuliani. A judge earlier found Giuliani defamed the election workers by falsely accusing them of voter fraud. Giuliani vowing to appeal.
For his lies about the two election workers, Rudy Giuliani has been ordered to pay the women more than $148 million. It's a number the cash-strapped former mayor calls absurd.
I am quite confident when this case gets before a fair tribunal, it'll be reversed so quickly, it'll make your head spin.
In tearful testimony, Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss said they were forced into hiding after Giuliani falsely claimed they engaged in voter fraud. Giuliani says he regrets that they were harassed, but he says he had nothing to do with it.
And it took the jury 10 hours to deliberate a decision. Crime right now in Tennessee. A Grundy County woman has been arrested after a months-long investigation has come to a close. The TBI said that a house fire led to the death of a dog over time. Officials learned that the fire was intentional. Through this investigation, they found that Melissa K. Barks was responsible for the flames and that she knew the animal was inside of the house at the time of the fire. Barks was arrested yesterday on a $75,000 bond. And the mother of that 6-year-old who shot his teacher will now spend even more time in prison. Andy Field explaining.
First, a federal court sent Deja Taylor to nearly 2 years in prison on gun charges after her 6-year-old shot and wounded his teacher in Virginia. Now a state court has added another 2 years to her sentence for felony child neglect. Taylor's son told police he got his mother's 9mm handgun by climbing on top of her dresser where she kept the weapon in her purse. He then took the gun to school in his backpack and shot and wounded his teacher in front of her first-grade class.
And some information coming out about Friends star Matthew Perry's death. It has been ruled that it has been an accident. Alex Stone has obtained his autopsy report.
The LA County Medical Examiner's report finding high amounts of ketamine in Matthew Perry's blood. He had been undergoing ketamine therapy for depression and anxiety, but the medical examiner reports he had too much in his blood to be from his last known therapy session, which was a week and a half before his death, because a half-life of ketamine is only about 3 hours. The medical examiner, believing he went unconscious from the ketamine, slipped under the water and then drowned, all of it compounded by coronary artery disease.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good evening, everybody. It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on this Friday, December 15th. Lovely evening outside. It was a pretty nice day, actually, for this time of year. I still got, 57 degrees here in bucolic Watertown.
60 downtown.
Yeah, so, yeah, nice. For this, here we are. We're in December. Temperatures in the 60s. That's not bad. This is the time of night where you need to go turn on your Christmas lights, and I'm having to hire a whole bunch of people to come in and turn on all the Christmas trees at my house because it's more than one person can do by themselves. It's an onerous burden.
By the time you get them all turned on, it's time to turn them off again, right?
That's right. You get them all going and everything, all the lights and the Christmas decorations and everything plugged in, and then. By the way, don't leave your inflatables unplugged. Those are ugly. I mean, it looks like the Wicked Witch of the West has melted into your lawn.
It does.
Yeah, I'm melting. So be sure you inflate your inflatables and you turn on your Christmas tree lights. It's now dark enough for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I read somewhere that and I don't understand this because they say that the shortest day of the year, the shortest daylight time is like on a few days before Christmas, like I forget exactly.
22nd, I think.
22nd, something like 22nd, 23rd, something like that. That's the winter solstice, but then I've read several places that we've reached the shortest or the earliest that it gets dark.
Earliest sunset, I think.
The earliest sunset. We've reached that already, and I don't know how that works, but one way or the other, doesn't make any sense to me. But again, it has to do with math, I'm sure. And what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah, with National Weather Service. When we have a tornado, they go out and they do all these kinds of surveys. And I think we now officially have 6 confirmed tornadoes that struck us, last weekend. And they're still doing their surveys, and that number may go up and it may be adjusted. But this story I found on WSMV's website, I go, wow. National Weather Service finds that homes improperly secured to their foundations before the tornadoes. Inspectors found that some homes were attached to the foundation only with nails and construction adhesive tape. Now, hold on a minute. How does this possibly happen? This is up in Clarksville. I'll read from the story on Channel 4's website. With crumbled walls and a missing roof, Juan Resendez knew his tornado-ravaged home on Kendall Drive in Clarksville was a total loss. He had no idea, though, what the National Weather Service inspectors would find under the rubble. Data from the National Weather Service, reviewed by Channel 4 Investigates, found inspectors determined multiple homes in the North Clarksville region were only secured to their foundations by nails. That's not the way it's supposed to be done. At Resendez's house, inspectors found his home was secured to the foundation with construction adhesive tape and nails. I mean, they say, you can do a lot of things with duct tape, but I don't think you're supposed to, secure a foundation with it. He said it was almost like an insult to injury. Resendez's home was built in 1998, and building codes from the time show that walls were supposed to be anchored to the foundation with bolts every 4 feet. I mean, have you ever seen them do those explosive bolts where they it's a gun basically, and they put the bolts in and then they shoot them into the concrete, and the bolt sticks up out of the concrete, goes deep into the concrete, and anchors the house to the foundation with a bolt, a concrete foundation, and then you tighten down the bolt, and you basically have tightened the house right to the concrete foundation. Every 4 feet, there's supposed to be one of these bolts. Well, when the storm hit, Resendez's home moved completely off its foundation. If your house doesn't stay attached to the foundation, it makes it almost impossible to survive, said Chrissy Hurley, an inspector with the National Weather Service. National Weather Service inspectors also found homes where a tree remained standing in the front yard, but the house was off its foundation, after, again, nails were used to secure it. In other cases, listen to this. This is astonishing. Inspectors could not find any sign of homes being secured to foundations at all. It was just sitting on top of the foundation. Oh, my goodness. Well, Without strapping or extra anchoring, it's really a bad situation when you have 150-mile-an-hour winds, says the National Weather Service inspector, Chrissy Hurley. At this point, I'm like, who was the builder at that time? Channel 4 Investigated wanted to know that as well, but the city's code department doesn't keep building permit requests from that time period. Clarksville Mayor Joe Pitts was unaware of the National Weather Service findings. We want whatever evidence the National Weather Service has so we can follow up, and if anyone is cutting corners, we want to find out who they are. Oh, there's a lawsuit coming here, because eventually they'll be able to pin that down, to find out who the contractor was, who the home builder was, and how in the world they thought it was okay. But that's not just the whole thing. Houses are supposed to be inspected before at certain points along the process. I mean, I've built houses, and I've it's maddening sometimes. They come out and they find some little hinky thing, like, well, your porch is 3 feet above the ground, and anything above 2 feet and 11 inches requires a railing. Okay, you could have let that one slide, but I mean, making sure that the walls are attached to the foundation ought to be one of the prerequisites of an inspector when they do a home inspection. So, I mean, yeah, some of this is on the builder for trying to get away with something, but what happened to the inspection process? The county is supposed to have inspectors that go out there and look this stuff over, and you can't go forward with certain stages of the house until the inspector has signed off on it. So how does that happen? Either the inspector was incompetent, or maybe it was that the builder and the inspector had some kind of little deal going on. Whatever it was, I'm telling you, and it's not that expensive. I mean, we're not talking about a big expense to get a bunch of these explosive bolts to attach to your house. I don't understand this at all. I don't understand it at all. And somebody needs to answer the questions for these people who have lost everything, and they probably wouldn't have lost anything. I mean, some of these cases, they said, like, the tree was fine, the house was gone. Okay, the tree showed no damage at all, but the house is blown down the street. That means that it wasn't attached to the foundation. So here's what I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to check, just to make sure. Now, I'm pretty sure my house, been told by people who watched my house being built about 20 years ago that it was very well built. And the people who were living here actually knew something about construction. So I'm pretty sure we're okay. But I mean, really, you really ought to just take a look and find out. If you go down into your basement, maybe you can take a look and see exactly how your house is attached to the foundation, if you got a basement. You need to know. Because I'm telling you, a house on a that doesn't have it properly attached to the foundation is just a disaster waiting to happen. And there are going to be lawsuits filed over this. I mean, clearly, they'll be able to figure out over time who the builder was. They'll be able to find out, who the inspector was or was supposed to have been. They'll figure that out, and they'll get some answers. But one way or the other, congratulations to News 4 for bringing this to our attention. And listen, you probably should check your house just to make sure. Wow, what a deal. What a deal that is. Other Tennessee news, the Tennessee governor pardoned nearly 24 people. I love the governor, the fact that he's a compassionate man. He's a man of faith, and he believes in redemption, and he believes that people can serve their time and be rehabilitated in some cases. And I'm sure all these cases have been thoroughly looked at, but there's about 23 people, including who got clemency, including 22 full pardons, which means that I guess their records will be expunged and completely returned to normal. And I'm hoping that there are no violent perpetrators here, and I'm going to hope that that's the case. I think, again, I love the fact that our governor believes in compassion and rehabilitation and all of that. I am now going to officially pardon the governor myself for that whole red flag law thing that he tried to put on us. But, you are pardoned. The slate is clean with me, Governor. We don't need to talk about it anymore. I disagreed with you, but I know that it came from a place of compassion. But I just thought it was a horrible idea. But I forgive you for that, and you have my full and complete pardon by the powers vested in me as a talk show host.
I'm reviewing that. I'm trying to figure out what those powers are exactly. But
yeah, well, you wouldn't believe the power is in this microphone, baby, right here. That's where the power is. No, look, we haven't had the governor on in a long time. Can I just say that? It's been ages. And I understand, when I'm out here every day saying that I don't like his policy, he doesn't want to come on and be asked hard questions. We've had a good relationship with him in the past, but, we're going to ask questions of the day. And when we disagree, we're going to tell you we disagree. And when we don't disagree, like right now, I don't disagree with his whole idea about, state funding for charter schools. I believe that he's on the right path there. And I think that kids ought to have a chance to go to a school that will give them a chance of success. And if the local schools are not getting it done, parents should have the option. I love that idea. I'm a big fan on charter schools and having the money follow the child rather than. So, there's going to be times where I agree with him, and there will be times when I disagree with him. But it doesn't mean that I dislike him. We can still be friends. And so, consider that whole thing with the red flag law. It's past history. I won't bring it up again. And neither will the state legislature. Okay, I'm sorry. That just amused me. Very quickly, this is really serious. There's this thing going around with dogs right now. It's a mystery respiratory dog illness. And the folks at News Channel 5 have consulted veterinarians who are encountering it, asking for advice. Coughing is the primary symptom, sometimes nasal discharge associated with this illness as well. And then one of the biggest problems with it is we see a higher ratio of cases turning into pneumonia, and those dogs will be really sick. Most of the time they'll run a fever, they could have difficulty breathing. There's a small segment of the disease population that will have rapidly progressing pneumonia and can actually lead to death. Dogs have died, and we don't know what it is exactly. So the question was asked on a walk, is it safe for dogs to greet other dogs? You probably want to avoid having contact with unknown dogs right now, especially if you don't know anything about their health status while you're out on a walk. So most of our cases are coming out of high-risk scenarios, and those there would be indoor facilities with a lot of dogs. So if you go to a boarding facility, a doggy daycare right now, a groomer, that's a place where the dog could pick up this mystery disease. Dog parks, if you can avoid that right now, perhaps that's a high-risk scenario as well. Should we still take our dogs to the vet? You definitely want to continue to do normal vet care, but don't go to the vet just for fun. If you think it's a real salient issue, then go in. But if you had maybe say, should I avoid going in for a dental cleaning? Well, those are optional things. And right now might be better not to take your dog in for that and just reschedule it when this thing gets under control. If you live in a state that doesn't have the reports of this illness, you'd be concerned. I think worry is probably something that we should all try to minimize. But I think being prepared for it to come to your state is definitely valid. There have been some cases reported out in East Tennessee. I have not heard of it happening here. Is it safe to travel with our dogs this holiday season? The vets say they think that's fine, but let's try not to lose our minds about this. This is not an illness that has a very, very high mortality rate. We're not seeing massive numbers of dogs, so it's generally frustrating and scary more than anything else. But if your dog is especially an older dog or a dog that is somehow compromised with bad health, take precautions. Take precautions. 21 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, we have big news from the folks at DT McCall's. If you've been thinking about buying a gun safe but putting it off, now is the time, because gun safes are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free. It's hunting season, so be sure you're keeping your gun safe when you're not in the tree stand with a gun safe from DT McCall's. DT McCall's, listen to this, is the largest Liberty Safe dealer in Tennessee. The reason? Free delivery and setup. Some charge $500 at least for delivery and setup of the big models, $300 for the smaller models. But at DT McCall & Sons, they deliver every safe free every time, never a setup charge. Security is important these days. Gun safes can be used for valuables, cash, jewelry, important documents, wills, deeds, car titles, whatever you need to keep safe from theft or fire. So save some big bucks now on your gun safe when you shop at your local DT McCall's. Go to dtmccalls.com for locations and information.
Hear how much former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani has been ordered to pay 2 Georgia election workers after his defamation case has reached a verdict. Some trouble down at the southern border, and the CDC coming out with some COVID, flu, and RSV cases numbers. We'll tell you all about it. 5:30 Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
That's right. It's time for Mac Maury's Wide, Wide World of Sports. And now here is the host of your program. You know him, you love him, you can't live without him. The one, the only, the incomparable Mac Maury.
Woo! It's Friday. Hello.
Well, I didn't get the memo today, so clearly, though, we're going to be talking about the Titans, right?
That's exactly right.
Of course,
right.
Yeah.
Getting ready for a big Titans game this weekend. Coming off a win, might I add. The Tennessee Titans are coming off a huge win on Monday Night Football, so a little bit shorter of a preparation week for the Titans. You know, They're going to be playing Sunday at noon right here in Nissan Stadium. They're going to be hosting the Houston Texans. Now, before the season started, the Titans announced there's going to be 2 games where they're going to be wearing their throwback Houston Oilers jerseys. They've already done that first one. Second time around, yeah, they're wearing them against the Houston Texans.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, so it's going to add a little bit of extra, twinge of hype
In your
here.
face, that's
yes,
right, yeah.
exactly. In your face. We've got this powder blue on. They're going to look awesome. They're going to look clean. And hopefully they're going to look even better after a win. 2 wins in a row would be just, I think, the second time they've been able to notch 2 wins in a row this whole season. So that'd be really nice to be able to do that for the Titans. You look at the Texans, they've got a laundry list of injuries. I mean, this is going to be, frankly, like a lot of their best players are newly added either from free agency or from the draft this year.
Wow.
They're rookies, and a lot of them are on that injury report. So you're kind of playing last year's Houston Texans team in a way. A lot of the main guys that you would be prepping for that weren't there last year aren't going to be there in this game either. They're talking about your quarterback, C.J. Stroud for the Houston Texans. He won't be playing. The number 2 overall pick right after number 1 C.J. Stroud was Will Anderson, their defensive end. He won't be playing in the game. They've got multiple offensive linemen out. They've got a cornerback out. I mean, the Houston Texans are just ravaged with injuries. So the Titans hopefully can take advantage of that. On the Titans side, looking at injuries, they are a little banged up, just like it's December football. But really, a big loss for them actually isn't going to come through injury. It's going to come through a cut. They just cut someone today, defensive lineman T.R. Tart. They waived him. He started the year on a contract year. They added him a few years back, and this was a contract year for T.R. Tart, and he was very vocal about wanting some more money. And the Titans were very vocal on the other end saying, play well this season, and we're going to talk about an extension. And apparently the attitude issues and the effort issues became too much of a problem for the Tennessee Titans, and they ended up cutting him today. Okay. So that's the second best run stopper on the defensive line.
How about that?
Is T.R. Tart. So
I got this story real quick because our time is a little shorter than normal.
Yep.
Robert Kraft, it says again, we've talked about this,
of course,
has already decided to let Belichick go, and it goes through the whole thing saying nothing seems to have changed his mind. And the question is, people have been whispering, would he come here? I'm getting the sense that is not in the offing.
No,
I don't think so.
No way. No, this is. There's too much new things happening in Tennessee right now to add a new head coach. Mike Vrabel's, found his footing here, and yes, the past year and a half haven't been great, but that's the way some franchises go through some lows, and you've got to go through some valleys to get to those peaks. Will Levis seems like he is the beginning of maybe an upwards trend for this franchise.
I think so too, yeah.
Vrabel and him finding some chemistry. And, a lot of the culture that Tennessee's created as a Titans team has been from Vrabel and his identity as a defensive-minded, hard-nosed guy. And I don't know to completely – now, Belichick's of that same ilk as well, so you wouldn't be changing all that. But, yeah, I don't think they're ready for that. I don't think that's a good call right now.
All right. Well, you want to make a game prediction?
Yes,
score?
I do.
Okay,
I'm
here we go. I'm ready. Drum roll, please.
Drum roll. This is enthusiastic, too. Give me 24-10. Titans win.
Ooh.
Oh, there you go.
Nice win. What big thing, though? Will Coach Vrabel wear a cowboy hat? I saw a story that suggested he may break out the cowboy hat.
Man, that would be awesome,
like
wouldn't
Bum Phillips used to wear?
Yeah.
Man, that'd be awesome. My bet is no.
No.
My bet is no, but
Probably
that'd be
not.
great. I'd be in full support.
What would be the motivation for him to wear a cowboy hat?
I guess because they're playing the Texans. They're wearing the throwback
wearing the
Oilers.
Wearing the old,
Well, that would be like Bum Phillips used to do back then when he was in charge of the Oilers back in the day.
Yeah, it could be an adage, yeah.
I could see. That'd be interesting. I hope he does. Wear a white hat because they're the good guys. All right, 30 minutes past the hour. Time to take off the sports hat, put on the news hat because it's time for news on Super Talk 99.7.
5:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 51 degrees in Nashville. Full weather forecast to let you know what this weekend's skies look like. And a traffic report also on the way in 5 minutes. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani has been ordered to pay an eye-popping $148 million to 2 Georgia election workers. A federal judge said he defamed Stephen Portnoy.
Despite the massive jury award, Ruby Freeman says money will never solve her problems.
I miss my neighbors.
Freeman says she and her daughter Shay Moss were forced into hiding after Rudy Giuliani falsely claimed that they took part in voter fraud. The cash-strapped former mayor says he can still support those claims, and he called the jury's $148 million award absurd.
The absurdity of the number merely underscores the absurdity of the entire proceeding, where I've not been allowed to offer one single piece of evidence in defense.
The Southern Border Fox Business says 10 improvised explosive devices were found at the U.S.-Mexico border in a cartel gunfight. U.S. Customs and Border Protection is warning agents to be on the lookout for explosive devices. The IEDs were found by Mexican authorities after Tucson Border Patrol saw the gunfight and arrested an armed person on the U.S. side who was armed with an AK-47, 2 loaded magazines, loose rounds, and a handgun. Fox Business says its source says the gunfight erupted over a gap in the border fence, which is typically used to smuggle drugs. And the CDC saying flu, COVID, RSV cases are all on the rise this week, just as families are preparing to celebrate the holidays. Ann Flaherty has more from Washington.
17 states plus New York City are experiencing high or very high levels of respiratory illness. That's according to the CDC, which found hospitalizations tied to the flu alone were up 200% in the past month. CDC Director Dr. Mandy Cohen has this advice.
If you're sick, get tested. You want to know what you have so you can get treatment.
And that is the latest news, weather, and traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, listen, Genesis Diamonds has just the relief you need on this holiday season. 5 years, 0% interest on anything and everything. That's right. Genesis has rolled back interest rates to 0.0%. That's right. $5,000 diamond ring is yours for just $85 a month. People are loving the offer, especially this year when finance rates are so high everywhere else. Nothing is held back at Genesis. Rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, certified natural diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, even luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. Just pick any item for that special someone and spread your payments over 5 years without paying one red penny in interest. A $10,000 designer ring comes to just $167 a month. Don't miss this incredible offer. Colored gemstones, designer fashion jewelry, this year's most treasured gifts, all included in this once-a-year offer. At Genesis, the area, they are breaking all the rules to make sure this holiday season your money goes as far as it can possibly go. Best prices, unbeatable selection, highest quality, super aggressive financing. Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs on approved credit. 38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. It's Friday. That's right. Friday, December 15th. Halfway through the month. We are 1 month away from the voting in the Iowa caucuses. And we have what? 9 shopping days till Christmas. It's time with what we do it on. We do it every Friday at this time. A little thing we like to call Phone Your Farm Friday. That's right. What's on your mind? We want to know. 615-737-9986. Get on the phone, and maybe you have a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you have a burr in your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a very uncomfortable place. Yeah, we don't want that. So, climb up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself. I mean, maybe you want to take umbrage with something you've heard. Maybe you have something you just really got to get off your chest. 615-737-9986. Listen, we love first-time callers. You can't just lurk out there and not participate. So if you got something you've been thinking about for a while, and I've just got to call. I have to say something. I have to get it off my chest. I have to ask a question, whatever. Maybe you want to stump the chump. Doesn't matter. 615-737-9986. Phone lines are open right now. We're going to start with Jerry in Murfreesboro. Jerry, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind today, Jerry?
My bee in my bonnet or whatever, mine is how the Democrats, these rats, they just get away with everything, these communists. Take, for example, the Hyde Act. I thought the government wasn't supposed to be paying for abortions, but they still do. I thought that they don't have the power to just forgive all these college loans. They just do it anyway. What do you do to that? How do you stop that?
Yeah, the problem is that what this administration is particularly adept at is doing something where you know that if it goes to the courts, you're going to be told you can't do it, and so you go right ahead and you just do it. And you say, and then so somebody's got to file a lawsuit. Well, guess what happens? It takes 6 months. It takes a year for that lawsuit to come to maturity, where a decision can be made, and they can drag it out, and so they're going to do what they want to do until they're told by the courts that you can't do that. But by the time the courts get around to doing it, they've already done it. And that's one of the things that they're really good. And you're talking about student loans. That's a perfect example of it. They keep being told they can't do it, and they keep doing it, waiting for a court to tell them, in a definitive way that they can't. They're taking advantage of the legal system and the slowness of the legal system to do what they want to do for as long as they can get away with it. And quite frankly, they're doing it on the border as well because we don't have the votes to stop it. Well, we may have the votes to stop it finally. Because the Republicans are standing together and saying, we're not going to give you some of the things you want, Mr. President, until you give us, a more secure border. But thanks for the call and Merry Christmas, Jerry. Appreciate it. Hubie, out on the road. Hubie, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What's up, Hubie?
Well, good afternoon, Brian. It's good to talk to you.
Same here.
Hey, so first of all, a couple quick things. Shout out to Mac Maury. The wide world of sports is one of my favorite things I get to listen to and I love that he's getting his own podcast with your companions down the hallway at the radio station.
Right.
And also...
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say you're right. And Mac Maury is, I'm telling you, he knows sports inside and out. I realize, Mac, Mac, put on your headphones. They're talking about you. You're getting paid a compliment here.
Oh, really?
The guy says that he loves the wide world of sports.
Yes.
And tell him about your podcast very quickly.
Oh, yeah, Behind the Box Score. Yeah, if you ever want any more of that content, wherever you get your podcasts, Behind the Box Score, released every week.
All right. Thank you, Mac. And thank you, Hubie, for the nice compliment. We appreciate it. You had another point?
Yes. No, actually, you and I share our anniversary date. We were both married on 10/10.
Really? 10/10/2020 or
No, the date is the same but not the day.
Yeah.
My first anniversary and this is how I remember it. I remember our anniversary better than my wife. I'm not worried; she's not listening. But my first anniversary was 10-10-10.
Wow. That's something else. Well, that's pretty good. Well, we did 10-10-20-20. And here's a little tip, guys, how you can always remember and you'll constantly be reminded of your well, I'm not going to tell that story.
Oh, you have to now.
No, I know I can't, because if I do that, I'll be giving people access to my bank records, and I don't want to do it. I just realized, what are you about to do, you idiot? Never mind. Never mind. Let's go to Cheryl in Hickman County. Cheryl, you're on with Brian on the drive. And by the way, we got some open phone lines. Hang on a second, Cheryl. Open phone line, 615-737-9986. Cheryl, what's on your mind?
Well, Merry Christmas, Brian.
Merry Christmas.
Have been thinking about the polls. I mean, do I not remember correctly that the midterm elections last time we had great polls, and then we ended up with Fetterman and people around the country that it just our doors got blown off again.
Yeah,
and so I'm a little nervous about the polls being so, generous to us right now, and it maybe I'm being a conspiracy theorist or something, but I wonder if they are a little inflated.
Well, they might be. I don't think so. I mean, here's what I would tell you is if you have one poll that says something, that doesn't mean much. You got two polls that show the same thing. Well, now maybe you got a little something. If you got about 10 polls out there and they're all sort of showing roughly the same information, then you start to have a bit of comfort, a little bit of comfortableness in the quality of those polls. But I would also tell you that I always, every time I do a poll, I say the same thing. This is a snapshot in time. Now, what you got to understand is, on Election Day, there are people who go to the polls who have not made up their mind. And they literally, sometimes they don't make up the mind until they go into the polling place and pull the lever or fill in the little dot, whatever it is, until that day. Those people have not really registered on the poll. So if it's really, 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 really tight, then, sometimes you can be surprised and the polls are inaccurate. And sometimes the polls just miss it. Sometimes they do. Because, one of the reasons is that people on our side of the equation will lie to pollsters at times. They just will give them bad information. So I don't know. Look, polls are what they are. I look at the trend. I never say that it's a prediction of the way it's going to end up, only that, here's where the movement is right now. And it's undeniable. I mean, all the polls pretty much show the same thing, that Biden is trending down and Trump is trending up. And I think that is reflective of what it really is going on out there. I think that's really is the case. And a lot of people very frustrated with this president. It also makes sense because this president's a bonehead. This president can't put together a sentence. And so it's not surprising with the economy and everything it is that he would be trending down. Seems to make sense, doesn't it? Thank you for the call, though. I appreciate it. Rich in Nashville, you're up next on the drive. Hey, Rich, what's on your mind? Rich, did you drop the phone? Where did he go? He hung up.
I think he did drop the phone.
He dropped the phone. I mean, we must have startled him. Poor Rich. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to scare you. Tony in Kentucky, you're up with Brian on the drive. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Brian. Just due north of you, about 50 or 60 miles, the left like to call us the election deniers. We need to start calling them evidence deniers with the Biden scandals.
That's a great idea. I'll use that line. Can I steal that from you?
Yes, sir, and spread it around. I'd like that. This makes a lot of sense. And I was going to ask you about your old Chevy. I have a 68 Chevy. Didn't know if you still had yours. I hadn't heard you mention it in quite a while.
Well, I had a 69 Chevrolet C10 that was bright zonker yellow. It is still in the family, but it's no longer in my possession. I sold it to my bonus son. He now holds on to it, so I get to see it every so often. But it's still in the family, but no, not. I don't personally have possession of it anymore. Thanks for the call, though. And by the way, just one thing about it. The left calls us election deniers. Go to the RNC Research sometime. It's on Twitter. And look at the very top of their page. They have put together a video. It's 24 minutes long. 24 minutes long of Democrats denying the outcome of an election. So, you know, they got no room to talk. Let's go to Sharon in Murfreesboro. Sharon, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on The Drive. Sharon, what's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. I guess I have issues with the polls because wasn't Hillary Clinton looking like she was going to win in the polls?
Well, let's talk about that because Hillary Clinton did win the popular vote. And the polls are a reflection of the popular vote. She didn't win the Electoral College. She didn't win in the right states by the right amounts to actually get 270 votes. So yeah, I mean that's one thing that can't. If you look at the polls and you're saying this is the definite outcome, remember polls are a reflection of the general election, the general electorate, and so yeah, what they're going to do is they're going to tell you how people are trending and how the total votes totals are going to go, but they don't really figure into the Electoral College. The more sophisticated way to do that is to go state by state and add up the Electoral College votes. I mean, I've seen some people who've tried to do that. It's way early for that, I think. But some people have tried to do that and say that, you know, right now it looks like Trump would win the Electoral College vote. He certainly is doing quite well in 6 or 7 battleground states. And if those polls are to be believed, and I think they're probably close to right, then, you know, he would probably be easy to get the 270 votes he needs. But remember, polls always look at the general election, the general election numbers, the raw total of people who voted. Not necessarily do they factor in the Electoral College math. All right, thank you for all of that. Appreciate it. Great conversation. Love to have you guys call in. It's now 50 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You know, I got to talk once again and just brag on my friends over at Busy Bee because I woke up on Saturday and I've been having trouble with my hot water heater and it was just gone. I mean, it just wasn't working and the showers were cold and there was no hot water in the house and I had 100 people coming for a party and people who were spending the night and I just had to get it fixed. So I called the folks. I called that number, the number that I tell you to call all the time. I got it memorized, 775-7833. Called that number, they buzzed right over, and I had hot water up and running, brand new hot water heater installed by noon of that day. Listen, you may think that they do that for me because I have a relationship with them and I do their commercials, but I think this is the thing. They have a reputation for doing this for anybody. You call and explain your situation, and they're going to get on it. They're going to do everything they can to help you. That's what they do. They move heaven and earth as much as possible to get people back up and running as quickly as possible. You might want to become a member of the Beehive Club. This is all about preventative maintenance. You get 3 services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 775-7833 online at busybeehvac.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Huden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, oh, you know, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Hey, how are you faring in the rough and tumble market these days? You know, right now it's up, but often it's down. You never know what's going to happen day to day. The experts at Beacon Capital Management say, well, they understand why that would be scary for folks. But here's the thing. They have a plan to assess where you are and then help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. Wouldn't it be great to know you have peace of mind you're on the right path as you head closer and closer to retirement? And Beacon can help provide that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call to this number. I'm going to give it to you now, but I'll give it to you again later, so write it down. 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. I mean, you have nothing to lose in this entire process except for potentially the worry that you have. Get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. You can replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, that number is 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
Six o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 51 degrees in Nashville. The weekend weather forecast and the latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. Starting in the Israel-Hamas war, the IDF confirming they killed 3 Israeli hostages by mistake. They're saying it happened during combat in Gaza. Inestela Katera is in Tel Aviv.
It'll be interesting to see the public reaction. We've been going to Hostage Square and meeting with those families there, the families of the hostages that are all calling for the government to do more to free these hostages. I was speaking to a man there at Hostage Square last night whose niece is still being held in Gaza, and he doesn't believe going in by force is the solution. He would like to see diplomacy. We've heard that from several other families. So we'll have to see how the public responds, but we may see the public demanding a change of strategy here.
And here in the States, U.S. officials remain on high alert after police overseas arrested 11 suspected Hamas supporters for allegedly planning attacks in Europe. In Denmark, 3 suspected supporters of Hamas taken into custody as part of a joint investigation with Israeli intelligence were accused of plotting revenge attacks because of that war in Israel and Gaza. Crime here in Tennessee, a Muslim family has been arrested after being accused of assaulting their own son because he wanted to convert to Christianity. Mother Rawa Kawaji, father Nick Kadam, and son John Kadam were arrested after officers executed a welfare check. Police found the boy with bruises and cuts everywhere, looking visibly scared. The boy's manager, where he works, told officials that he came to her once saying, quote, "My mom put a knife to my throat, and she said if I don't deny Jesus, she will kill me." The boy is now safe and staying with a Christian foster family. And right now in the mid-state, Channel 4 says the National Weather Service in their tornado damage surveys are finding that homes were improperly secured to foundations before the tornado outbreak on Saturday. Chrissy Hurley is one of the inspectors and tells Channel 4 several homes in North Clarksville were secured to their foundations by nails alone.
Without any kind of strapping or extra, anchoring, it is really a bad situation when you have 150-mile-per-hour winds.
And Clarksville Mayor Joe Pitts says the city wants to see the evidence and to follow up on improperly secured foundations. And the L.A. County coroner has ruled Friends star Matthew Perry's death to have been an accident. Alex Stone has obtained his autopsy report.
The L.A. County medical examiner's report finding high amounts of ketamine in Matthew Perry's blood. He had been undergoing ketamine therapy for depression and anxiety, but the medical examiner reports he had too much in his blood to be from his last known therapy session, which was a week and a half before his death, because a half-life of ketamine is only about 3 hours. The medical examiner, believing he went unconscious from the ketamine, slipped under the water and then drowned, all of it compounded by coronary artery disease.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, good evening, everybody. 7 minutes now past the hour. Still a lovely evening outside. I mean, I'm here in Bucolic, Watertown, 56 degrees, and right around 60 downtown. What do you got there, Chris?
Actually, we've cooled down to 56.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's still, and when you're talking about the 15th day of December, I'll take it.
Yeah,
that's not bad. I mean, it was really pleasant today. I actually thought about taking a dip in the pool. But I'm not that fool. Well, I mean, it's heated, so I thought better of it though over time. We really last year was by this time it had been really cold, but it really hasn't gotten that cold so far this year. Let's cross our fingers and hope that's the case. I want to talk about the fact that we are exactly 1 month. 1 month to the day before the Iowa caucuses. January 15th is when we hold the Iowa caucuses, and all eyes will be turned on Iowa, where the corn is as high as an elephant's eye. And the corn and the brews come sweeping down the plain. That's Oklahoma. Okay, but Iowa still, nonetheless, it's a place where everybody looks to see, the first round of voting. And the caucus situation is very different than an actual primary where you go to a ballot box and you vote. Caucuses, people get in there and they make speeches and then everybody, kind of decides who they're going to vote for. And sometimes the candidates will show up and try to persuade you and, and make a last pitch appeal. And you never know how it's going to turn out. But if the polls are correct, and I think, look, even if the polls are a little off on this one, Trump is likely to be the nominee. Trump will be the nominee on the Republican side of the equation, and we'll be looking to see exactly what happens on the Democrat side of the equation. And then we'll be off to New Hampshire after that. Trump again leads very strongly there. And then after that, we end up in South Carolina. Then we end up in Florida. Then we end up in Super Tuesday. By the time we get around to our voting on Super Tuesday, it pretty much will be over, I think. I really do, at least on the Republican side of the equation. But what about the Democrats? Are they really, really going to stick with Biden? Well, if you've been a regular listener to my program, you know that I keep saying, look, I want Biden to be the guy. I really want that because it would be really, I think it'd be very easy, very weak as a candidate, very easy for Republicans to win that race because, you just compare Trump to Biden and we're going to be okay. But there's something nagging at me in the back of my mind that says, you know what? The Democrats are not going to let Biden be the nominee. I've been saying that for a while now. Someone else is now saying it. Ron DeSantis of Florida.
So listen, and this is part of the reason why I thought it was important that we do this Newsom debate. Obviously, there's a lot of Democrats that want to remove him. They understand the liabilities. They understand his bad policies. I think he is not willing to step down at this point. But who knows what's going to happen? And I think this inquiry is justified. I think it should have been done long ago. He's got so many issues that are clouding his presidency. He clearly would not be a great candidate for the Democrats. So Republicans, we need to be ready for whoever they pull out of the hat. Newsom has been waiting in the wings. I mean, quite frankly, after that debate, I'm not sure that that's the candidate that they would want because he embraced Biden, said Biden did an A+ job as president. Are you kidding me? But then he also is saddled with all of his baggage in California. You have homelessness through the roof, crime pushing people out of communities, and even all the poop on the street in San Francisco. So I don't think that they want to have to litigate on two fronts to have to defend Biden's failed policies and defend the failed California policies. But I do think we have to be ready that it could be someone else.
Ron DeSantis is correct. That's right. And he's not the only one. Listen to this story. I just found this one. Cornel West, who's running, I guess, I don't know if he's running as a Democrat or as an independent, one way or the other. He doesn't have a chance snowball's chance in hell of becoming the nominee, but here's what he said. In a new interview, he believes President Biden may drop out of the 2024 race in the coming months amid mounting criticism over foreign policy and the economy. I'm not even sure whether I'll be running against Biden. He's an independent presidential candidate, told Politico. Biden, I think, he's going to have an LBJ moment and pull back. Former President Johnson announced he would not seek re-election on March 31st of 1968. I have a distinct memory of this. For some reason, as a young man, I used to watch the evening news. I don't know. I was even then interested in national affairs. And I remember him saying, I will not seek. And if elected, I will not serve. If nominated, I will not run. I will not be your guy. And it was just months before the election. And it all had to do with concerns over his health and criticism of the way he was conducting the Vietnam War. And I guess, he was looking at poll numbers that looked this bleak, and he decided at the last minute to pull out. West said there's a real chance Biden's campaign doesn't make it to November. I'm just saying that I'm open to those possibilities given the fluidity of the situation. He's running out of gas. He says his real race is against Democrats who haven't declared their candidacy. He points to Governors Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. Well, that'd be interesting. We haven't talked about Gretchen Whitmer. I think she's a flawed candidate. I don't think she would find a lot of favor with a lot of folks. And by the way, though, if you're Biden right now, and you've got a problem in Michigan, and you get out, you need to fix the Michigan problem. She's the person probably that could at least maybe do that. I don't know. He said the Republican ticket appears more solid. He added it's also possible that President Trump leaves the race if the weight comes too heavy in the indictments and the court process. I don't see that happening. So there you have it. Cornel West, Ron DeSantis, two very different people with the same idea. Joe Biden's not going to make it across the goal line as the nominee. And it's easy to understand why. Look at his approval numbers. The Fox News people were putting this all together today on his low approval ratings on every conceivable topic.
Pew Research Center found President Biden's approval rating at just 33%. 64% of respondents said they disapprove of the president's job performance. That same poll found that only 36% believe Biden can make good decisions on economic policy. That's a 20-point drop since 2021. I wonder why. And just 32% are confident that Biden will make good decisions on immigration. Another 20-point drop from 2021. And just 24% said that they were confident that Biden can unite our country. A nearly 25-point drop. Maybe that blood red MAGA speech had something to do with that one.
Well, I tell you, his numbers are trending down across the board. Everywhere you look, it's hard to find a poll where Biden does well. I mean, it's just poll after poll after poll after poll after poll. Go to realclearpolitics.com and look at their latest poll data. There's a link on it, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. There's just nothing out there that looks good for Joe Biden. And at the same time, Donald Trump's numbers are going up. And the more trouble he seems to get into, more of the cases they bring, etc., it doesn't seem to make any difference at all because at the end of the day, he is Obi-Don Kenobi.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
That's right. It doesn't matter what happens because he just gets stronger every time you look at it. So there's that. Let's see what else. Trump pulls ahead in Michigan. We've talked about this. He's 10 points ahead, according to some polls in the state of Michigan. Donald Trump has pulled ahead of President Joe Biden in must-win Michigan. And it does not look good. Trump led Biden 46-42 in poll conducted November 27th through December 5th, after they were tied in the same survey done in October and early November. Biden has lost support among suburban women in Michigan and voters aged 18 to 34. And his inability to improve his standing within union households, despite being the first sitting president to join a picket line, didn't help. Backing United Auto Workers is helping Trump, the poll found. So he's losing. He's losing women in Michigan, and he's losing auto workers in Michigan, and he's losing, by the way, Arab voters. There's a lot of Arab voters in Michigan. So who knows how that's all going to play out. I can't quite figure it out, but I think that it looks pretty good for Trump right now. Chris, are we okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I've lost my connection with you, so I just want to make sure we're all right. All right. More than 20% of voters, listen to this. This is a pretty interesting story. More than 20% of voters who use mail-in ballots in Biden's 2020 win say they engaged in fraud. I'm going to say that again. More than 20% of the voters who use mail-in ballots in Biden's 2020 win say they engaged in fraud. Now, this is not, something that they look by getting the polling data. They simply ask people in an anonymous poll, did you obey the rules or did you cheat? A new survey made the startling discovery that 1 in 5 voters who used mail-in ballots in the 2020 presidential election admitted to committing some type of voter fraud. In an election where about 43% of the voters use mail-in ballots, which is the highest percentage in U.S. history, 21% told pollsters they filled out a ballot in part or full for a friend or a family member. That is illegal in all states. Additionally, the survey by the conservative Heartland Institute and Rasmussen Reports found that 17% of mail-in voters said they voted in a state where they no longer live permanently, and another 17% said they signed a ballot or ballot envelope for a friend or family member. These are acts of fraud that would cause the ballots to be invalidated if caught, but it's hard to catch. Wow. Hans von Spakovsky is a good friend of this program, a senior legal fellow at Heritage Foundation. He says that mail-in ballots are the most insecure way of voting. I believe that you have to do this very carefully. I mean, if you have an elderly person, make sure that they're filling out that ballot. It's because it's illegal to do it for them, and many people in nursing homes, etc., take advantage of that situation. I'm telling you, this is a very concerning thing. And again, this doesn't come from looking at the voting data. This comes from asking people, hey, did you play straight in the last election? And amazingly, in this anonymous survey, people said, no, we cheated. Mail-in balloting, honestly, it ought to be allowed for people in the military that are serving overseas. Otherwise, it should not be allowed except for in extraordinary circumstances. This was all set up, during the COVID. Much of it was they loosened the rules, and unfortunately, they've been very slow in some places to change the rules back now that we're through COVID. The survey bolstered opponents of widespread mail voting who say it's an invitation to election fraud. Used to be a very small percentage of voting, about 5 to 10%. But now it's almost 50% of all votes pass through the mail. Maybe that needs to be revisited. It is 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I love the state of Tennessee. I love everything about it, and I love hunting and fishing in the state of Tennessee, and what you guys do is so great. I was born and raised here, and this song is for Tennessee and everybody in it. Well, I have roamed across the land, and I have sailed deepest sea. When I've drawn my last breath, Do this one thing for me. Say, won't you take me back to Tennessee, where southern streams are flowing free. Me and mine, Lord, will always be right at home in Tennessee, right at home in the woods of Tennessee, right at home in Tennessee. Awesome.
Little economic news here in the moments that we have left in this half hour. A growing number of retailers are rethinking self-checkout. Well, this is a good idea. I'm glad to hear this. You know, the reason they did it was they wanted to save money because, if you can check yourself out, then you don't have to hire a cashier. But you know what? When you're there and you're doing the checkout, the self-checkout, there's a lot of people who take advantage of that situation to walk out with things they haven't paid for. I got to tell you a personal story. I was at Walmart, and I looked around, and there was like maybe 2 people that were checking out in the regular cashier lanes, and they were backed up. I said, well, I'll just go over here and I just have one little item, and so I got my item, and it was an expensive item. But I paid for it, and I ran the card, and the process went just as it's supposed to do. And then it asked me, do you want to email your receipt, or do you want to print your receipt, or do you want no receipt? And I said, no receipt. I don't need a receipt. I mean, I hate to carry around receipts. I know. Okay, so I make that decision. I then get up and I start moving toward the door, right? And I get to the door, and now there's somebody there that wants to check me out. They want to know, they want to see my receipt. And I looked at him and said, I don't have a receipt. I chose not to get a receipt, but I paid for it. And I just kept walking. What are they going to do?
They didn't say anything else to you?
No, I just kept walking. I said, no. And I'm honestly, if you are not going to put enough registers there where, we can do this the right way, then I don't feel like I have any obligation to prove to you I'm honest, even though I was absolutely honest in this case. I would never, ever not be honest in a situation like that. But I don't feel like it's my job to prove to them that. I think if you got something you want to say to me, say it. Do you think I stole this? Do you think I'm walking out without paying with it? Make your case. But otherwise, I'm going to the truck because I'm not wasting my time with you. I did it right. And if you want me to stop, then, make me go through a regular checkout. But if you go through a regular checkout, you don't really need to stop, do you? I mean, they can see you coming from the register. They know one way or the other. I didn't stop. Now, was I rude? Was I being rude? I mean, I wasn't ugly. I just said, no, I didn't ask. I asked them. They asked me if I wanted a receipt. I said I didn't want one. Don't have one. Sorry. And I kept walking. Is that rude?
No, I mean, that's what happened.
Well, anyway, we had started to rely too much on self-checkout in our stores, Dollar General CEO Todd Vasos told investors last week during an earnings call. We should be using self-checkout as a secondary checkout vehicle, not primary. Well, I agree with that. And when I go to the Dollar General, I almost always find that there's nobody there. They're out working in the store. The front of the store is largely left unwatched. Walmart, Costco, Target, ShopRite, others have indicated they are cutting back on the number of self-checkouts. Target is going to try something. They're going to do a little test. 10 items or less, you can go to the self-checkout areas. If you got more than 10 items, you got to go through a register. Since our goal is for Target to be the easiest place for our guests to shop, our teams have been focused on the front-of-store experience with the goal of providing consistently great service at the in-store checkout experience, along with drive-up and in-store pickup. Well, let's be honest about it. The reason these companies are doing it was to save a buck. But they're probably losing more to what they call shrink than they were saving by having to have cashiers in place. I'll tell you what the end result of this is going to be. Longer lines. I mean, they're not going to hire more people. They're just going to make you stand in line longer. I hope that's not the case, but I have a feeling that's exactly what is happening. Costco told CNN this year, retail shrink, a term used to describe retail theft, shoplifting, and employee theft, had increased in part, we believe, because of the rollout of self-checkout. Walmart, meanwhile, confirmed that it removed self-checkout machines at some locations in New Mexico. I told you I was shopping in New Mexico, and there were armed guards at the bottom of the escalator. You had to go up an escalator to go to this Target store, come down the escalator, and at the bottom there were armed guards. I'm talking about Uzis, or these guys had military SWAT gear on. And I guess a lot of people in New Mexico were taking advantage of the self-checkout machines and just not paying. Pretty sad, actually. So, the end result may be that you'll see a few more cashiers. I think probably the end result will be there'll be the same number of cashiers. There'll be fewer self-checkout allowed, and you're going to have to stand in line. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am. Homelessness, by the way, I'm talking about the economy. A lot of people are on the street without a place to live. 12%, up 12%. The highest reported level is rent soar and coronavirus pandemic aid lapses. The United States experienced a dramatic increase in homelessness to its highest reported level as soaring rents and a decline in coronavirus pandemic assistance combined to put housing out of reach for more Americans. 653,000 people are experiencing homelessness, the most since the country began using the particular metric for measuring that problem. This data underscores the urgent need for support to proven solutions and strategies to help people quickly exit homelessness and that prevent homelessness in the first place. Yep. How's the Bidenomics working out for you, folks? Doesn't sound like it's working out all that well. 6:30 now on Super Talk 99.7. Let me tell you about Smart Care plans from Grace Point Healthcare. They start at just $69 a month. And then for that, you get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the entire family, even newborns, they can offer family plans as well. If you marry that with a high-deductible insurance plan, could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. You see, Grace Point delivers medicine affordably with a menu-style, transparent pricing, so you know how much things are going to cost before the care is actually delivered. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. And it is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider year after year after year. And Grace Point wants you to know they can do COVID testing and treatment. If you think you have COVID, go get tested. And if you do have COVID, they've got the therapies that can help you feel better sooner. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868 to schedule a visit. It is 38 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Hey, everybody. Glad you're with us here on this Friday night. We're here for about another 22 minutes, and then we hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one. He'll carry on through the evening. You know, we have a lot of people coming to this country illegally across the southern border. The moment that they arrive on our shores, they have already broken the law. And of course, there is a legal way. We forget about it because it's what a quaint notion, actually coming to this country the way you're supposed to come to this country. And you can make the point, and I think it's a fair point, honestly, that becoming a citizen of the United States is a clunky, bureaucratic, very expensive process, and maybe it could be streamlined. I would be in favor of streamlining the existing system. Got no issue with that. But why bother with any of that when you can just wade across the Rio Grande River and become and get your way into America, and then essentially you're here, violating the laws of our land, but you're here, and nobody gonna stop you. not the Biden administration by and large, not going to stop you. Today, we heard from Melania Trump. She hasn't made many appearances of late. She went to a citizenship ceremony where you're talking to people who have actually gone through the process in the proper way. I mean, honestly, what a refreshing thing. And by the way, she is an immigrant to this country, and she did it the right way. She followed the rules. She did everything she was supposed to do. She crossed the T's and dotted the I's like these other people did, and she wanted to welcome them to the America that she has found since becoming an American citizen.
Becoming an American citizen comes with responsibility. It means actively participating in the democratic process and guarding our freedom. It also means leading by example and contributing to our society. It is a life-altering experience that takes time, determination, and sometimes even tremendous strength. You are now a part of a nation with a rich history of progress, innovation, and resilience. Be proud of yourself. Stand your ground and embrace the opportunities that lie ahead. You are American. Be a beacon of inspiration for your children and those who follow in your footsteps. May your journey continue to be filled with endless possibilities, and may your contributions enrich the fabrics of this great nation. Congratulations again.
Congratulations. Yeah, what a concept. They became American citizens the proper way. Good on you. Glad that that quaint notion is still alive somehow. Meanwhile, the people who are coming across illegally are doing so in record numbers. 10,000 in a single day on Tuesday, according to Customs and Border Protection, despite being lower than the record-breaking 12,000 in one day that we had last week. I mean, they're coming across in droves. Tucson, Del Rio sectors reported encountering 3,000 and 2,700 migrants respectively, each surpassing their capacities by over 200. Agents have also met with groups of more than 100 migrants at various locations, indicating an ongoing trend orchestrated by transnational criminal organizations. That's basically the cartels. And here's one. A notable increase was observed on Tuesday with more than 190 Chinese nationals encountered in the San Diego sector. Over 120 nationals from Guinea entered in the Tucson sector. They're coming from all over the world, not just Central and South America or Mexico. That's really troubling. And then there's this. From Fox News this morning, they exclusively had information about possible IEDs being found on the border.
U.S. officials are warning agents to watch out for IEDs, improvised explosive devices. This now according to an internal memo obtained by Fox Business, says the Mexican military seized 10 explosives at the border. The memo reads in part, quote, agents should exercise extreme caution and should report any possible armed subjects approaching the border with possible explosive devices.
Well, that's scary. I mean, who are these people? I need more information. Who were these people, and how did they have explosive devices, improvised explosive devices, and where were they headed with them? So the Border Patrol's been told to be on the lookout. But you know what? They're overwhelmed, as we just told you. 10,000 a day, 12,000 a day, thousands. I mean, I remember last week we heard from Jay Johnson, who was the Secretary of Homeland Security back during the Obama administration, and he said, when I was Secretary of Homeland Security, if we had 1,000 a day, it was considered a very, very, very bad day. Well, we got 10 or 12 times that now in a day, coming across the border. It's out of control. I hope that the Democrats will come to their senses and do something. I mean, as you know, right now, Republicans have said, we're not going to give you any money for Ukraine, Mr. President. We're not going to give you any money for Israel until you fix the border. But they're at a standoff right now. Congress has gone home, and Speaker Johnson says we're not going back until January. So if you want to work something out between now and January, that's fine. But the Senate is coming back in next week, it appears. on hopes that they can make some progress toward some kind of deal that everybody can sign off on. But right now, I hope Republicans stand their ground. They really, really need to do that. Now, as you know, as we wrap up a busy week, we are a program that believes that the truth is out there. You know, there are a lot of things that get put into a defense bill, the NDAA, National Defense Act, which just got passed up on Capitol Hill. And I'm telling you, you'd be surprised at the things that are in there. Well, Chuck Schumer, the leading Democrat in the Senate, he's the Senate majority leader, and a senator by the name of Rounds, who's a Republican, slipped in a little thing about UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. And they had a colloquy on the floor of the Senate to talk about what they have slipped into this defense bill. It may give us some answers about what is out there.
So I see my friend Senator Rounds is on the floor and ask him to engage in a colloquy on an important set of provisions in the NDAA that deals with transparency, trust, and government oversight. The Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Disclosure Act that he and I co-sponsored, and portions of which we will pass in the NDAA. I say to my friend that unidentified unanimous phenomena are of immense interest and curiosity to the American people. But with that curiosity comes the risk for confusion, disinformation, and mistrust, especially if the government isn't prepared to be transparent. The United States government has gathered a great deal of information about UAPs over many decades, but has refused to share it with the American people. That is wrong, and additionally, it breeds mistrust. We've also been notified by multiple credible sources that information on UAPs has also been withheld from Congress, which, if true, is a violation of the laws requiring full notification to the legislative branch, especially as it relates to the 4 congressional leaders, the defense committees, and the intelligence committee. Let's increase transparency on UAPs by using a model that works, by following what the federal government did 30 years ago with the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act. They established a presidentially appointed board to review and release these records, and it was a huge success. We should do the same here with UAPs.
Thank you, and I thank my colleague, the Democrat leader, for the opportunity. This is an issue that I think has caught the attention of the American people, and most certainly the lack of transparency on the matter, which is of real interest to a lot of the folks that have watched from the outside. It brings together, I think, a notable parallel in the withholding of information that about items that are in the government's possession regarding, in this particular case, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. We wanted to take that same approach with regard to how we could dispel myths, misinformation about UAPs, about unidentified flying objects, unidentified objects that simply have come to the attention of the American people. Congress did pass legislation 30 years ago. The UAP Disclosure Act was closely modeled on the JFK Records Act.
For the first time, the National Archives will gather records from across the federal government on UAPs and have a legal mandate to release those records to the public if appropriate. This is a major, major win for government transparency on UAPs, and it gives us a strong foundation for more action in the future.
I think probably the most significant shortcomings that I think we need to visit about as well, shortcomings of the Conference Committee agreement that are now being voted on, were the rejection, first of all, of a government-wide review board composed of expert citizens, presidentially appointed and Senate confirmed, to control the process of reviewing the records and recommending to the president what records should be released immediately or postponed, and a requirement as a transparency measure for the government to obtain any recovered UAP material or biological remains that may have been provided to private entities in the past and thereby hidden from Congress and the American people.
Wow.
We are lacking oversight opportunities, and we are not fulfilling our responsibilities.
It's essential we keep working on our proposal to create an independent presidentially appointed review board that can oversee UAP classified records and create a system for releasing them where appropriate to the public. Now it means that declassification of UAP records will be largely up to the same entities that have blocked, obfuscated their disclosure for decades. We will keep working. I want to assure the American people, Senator Rounds and I will keep working.
There is, we believe, information and data that has been collected by more than just the Department of Defense, but by other agencies of the federal government as well. And by allowing for an outside independent collection of these records, we can make progress in terms of dispelling myths and providing accurate information to the American people.
So they now have a process in place to begin searching for these documents, and it is, as you heard, it's all kind of shaped after the JFK Commission that went in and looked at and found documents that we didn't know about and have been released to the public. Will we get all the answers anytime soon? No, but there was a lot of really interesting little tidbits packed into that colloquy between Schumer and Senator Rounds. 51 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.